Chapter 1703. As soon as Gong Baiyu was dealt with, someone couldn't wait to jump out. However, the prize he took out was not a spirit stone, but a flower wreath with complicated patterns carved on it. This thing was not attractive to Jun Changshao, but it was attractive to rows of flowers, because the aura it emitted was exactly the same as soul power, or even more majestic and pure. In that case, Jun Changshao said, "I'll help you win it." "Thank you." Rows of Flowers actually didn't care about this so-called soul ring. What she cared about was why the upper universe had the same attributes as the soul race. Especially when that guy mentioned the soul mastery realm after taking it out, could it be related to the soul race? Jun Changshao also thought of it. He secretly said, "There are other planes in this starry sky?" One was called the Imperial Sky Realm, and the other was the Soul Mastery Realm. Since the names were so similar, they shouldn't be too far apart. What? Seeing that he didn't say anything and didn't plan to fight, the burly man said with a cold face, "You don't like this thing of mine?" Jun Changshao said, "I'm just curious, since this is the Imperial Sky Realm, why do you have something from the Soul Mastery Realm?" "Humph," the burly man snorted coldly, "My Imperial Sky Realm and the Soul Mastery Realm fight on the independent battlefield all year round, it's natural to have something from them." Independent battlefield? Jun Changshao muttered in his heart, "Is it similar to the plain battlefield?" "Kid!" The burly man shouted, "Are you going to fight or not?" "Fight." "Then hurry up and come out, my fists are already thirsty for blood." "No weapons?" "My fists are enough to crush you." "Alright, for the sake of fairness, I won't use weapons either." Jun Changshao put the utmost perfection immortal sword into his space ring and then stepped out. Hong Tianyo has immersed himself in the art of body forging for many years, his body is strong, his fists can break mountains and rivers, fighting with him barehanded is tantamount to suicide. A Imperial Sky Realm martial artist said. The others shook their heads. In their opinion, Jun Changshao only relied on his weapon to win 2 consecutive rounds. Now that he took the initiative to take back his weapon, there was absolutely no hope of winning if he challenged his opponent barehanded. "Friends," one of the experts said indifferently, "I advise you to use your weapon." This was not a kind reminder. If he lost to Hong Tianyo, he would not have the chance to get the sword. "I've always fought fair and square. I've never taken advantage of others," Jun Changshao said. "Ha ha ha." Hong Tianyo laughed and said, "It's been a long time since I met someone who dared to fight with me barehanded. Come on. We must fight to our heart's content today. Please." Jun Changshao stopped and cupped his fists. Boom. Hong Tianyo's right fist suddenly waved in the void, smashing out a visible fist print. He was like a ferocious tiger pouncing over. This was pure physical strength. Although the movements were not small, the special effects and the degree of brilliance were far inferior to that of martial artists who released their spiritual energy. Jun Changshao didn't dare to underestimate him. He took half a step back. His hands waved in the void, instantly forming a solid boundary. From the looks of it, it was similar to the wall of air condensed by the martial king. However, it contained an extremely majestic heaven and earth attribute and profound meaning. Its defensive power was 108,000 times stronger. Boom! The fist condensed from pure physical strength smashed onto the barrier. A violent force surged out and fiercely lifted the surrounding ground. However, Jun Changshao did not move at all. Hong Tianyo's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. Then, he excitedly punched out a few more times. The stronger Jun Changshao's barrier was, the more his blood boiled. He was especially looking forward to the sound of it breaking. That would be wonderful. Boom! 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 Several incomparably powerful fist prints came one after another. As the power spread, the nearby ground continued to sink, gradually turning into a deep and long pit. Everyone frowned. With Hong Tianyo's simple and violent attack, if they were to take it head-on, the result would definitely not be optimistic. "I'll talk." Suddenly, a voice was heard, "Did you not eat enough?" Everyone looked through the dust and found that the guy was still standing inside the barrier. Although there were obvious traces of bombardment on the surface, there was no substantial damage at all. Unbelievable. Could this barrier be a treasure? Sorry. If it wasn't a treasure, then it was a barrier. They all thought that Jun Changshao was able to win 2 matches in a row because he relied on the supreme immortal sword. Little did they know that he was still very strong even without the support of his weapon. Damn it! Hong Tianyo was furious. Ah! With a loud roar, the clothes on his upper body instantly burst apart, revealing his strong muscles. Then, he suddenly patted his body with both hands and said, "Savage God's power, add all of your strength to my body." He actually used his trump card. Everyone was stunned. He had only thrown a few punches, yet he had already used his trump card. Wasn't he being a little too hasty? In fact, Hong Tianyo knew in his heart that his previous attacks on the barrier were like hitting cotton. Therefore, if he wanted to break it, he could only use his trump card. Who? Hong Tianyo's hands were still stuck to the ground. His body slowly arched, as if he was sprinting in a 100-meter race. Then, he breathed in large mouthfuls of air. Jun Changshao was speechless. This action, this air. No matter how one looked at it, it was like a crazy wild bull. It's a pity that Xing Chen didn't come along. Otherwise, the two of them would definitely have a common topic. Jun Changshao thought to himself. Roar! At this moment, Hong Tianyo seemed to have finished accumulating power. He let out a roar similar to a bull. Then, he exerted force in his legs and instantly rushed over like a cannonball. Hoo-hoo! Violent energy spread all over his body and quickly solidified. His entire person seemed to have turned into a huge bull beast. Damn! Jun Changshao said, "It's indeed a bull." Ta-ta-ta! Hong Tianyo transformed into a bull. His running speed had increased, and the terrifying brute force had also been greatly enhanced. Before anyone could be surprised, the huge bull beast had already slammed into the barrier. Then, an extremely crisp cracking sound could be heard. It was broken. That guy was unlucky. Not to mention the backlash caused by the breaking of the barrier, the impact of the bull beast alone was difficult to bear. Heaven crossing palm print. At this moment, a shout came from above. Everyone looked up and saw that Jun Changshao was already floating in the air. His hands quickly formed seals, and one after another, palms started to fall down. The number increased from 1 to 2, to 3, until there were dozens of palms in total. At that moment, everyone's vision was full of palms and seals. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. The palms fell, shaking the earth and mountains. Sure enough, the higher the realm, the stronger the power. Rows of Flowers said. She also practiced the heaven-crossing palm print on a daily basis, but compared to her husband, it was not worth mentioning. The difference came from the realm. The violent and frequent bombardment caused the ground to shake violently, forcing several deep and long cracks to appear in the surroundings. It was like a naturally formed canyon cliff. Puff! Hong Tianyo, who was lying in the pit of the palms, spat out blood and then raised his soul ring with difficulty. He lost. He was willing to admit defeat. Swish! Jun Changshao took it and threw it to Rows of Flowers. When the latter reached out and caught it, the engraved patterns on the soul ring suddenly shone brightly, and a fluorescent light slowly wrapped around her body. Seeing this, the powerhouses of the Imperial Celestial World exclaimed in unison, "This woman is from the Imperial Celestial clan." Chapter 1704. The reward for completing the mission, the heaven-crossing palm print, was taken from Gu Tianxing. Every disciple of the sect of all times had a copy, and everyone cultivated it. However, in order to unleash the power of this martial technique, one needed the support of a high realm. For example, Jun Changshao, after breaking through to the half-step heavenly secret realm, his use of the heaven-crossing palm print had reached perfection. It was no problem for him to create dozens of palm prints with a wave of his hand. On the other hand, Li Qingyang and the others were only at the truth-seeking realm and were limited by the energy in their dantian. Although the power they could unleash was extraordinary, there were still limitations. The heaven-crossing palm print was a fierce martial art, and the strength of the palm print was determined by the strength of one's realm. Jun Changshao used it to deal with a warrior with high defense like Hong Tianyo. Even a god wouldn't be able to withstand it, so in the end, he was slapped to the ground and spat out blood. "I've lost. Take the soul ring." This was a spoil of war that Hong Tianyo obtained from killing a spirit mastery expert in the independent battlefield. Although the material and quality were good, he couldn't use it at all. Naturally, he wouldn't feel bad about using it as a prize. In fact, if Rose of Flowers didn't like it, Jun Changshao wouldn't have allowed the other party to use it as a prize, because he couldn't use it either. Non-spirit mastery warriors couldn't use soul rings, so they were at most decorations. However, others couldn't use it, but Rose of Flowers could. Just by touching the soul ring, her body was surrounded by fluorescent light. Pure soul power surged into her body, and her blood and soul were instantly sublimated. Under the halo, she was even more beautiful. Jun Changshao wasn't in the mood to admire this woman's appearance. Instead, he stared at the warriors in the distance, because after they shouted out "Spirit Mastery Race," their eyes were filled with hostility. The Imperial Sky World and the Spirit Mastery World had a feud and had fought for tens of thousands of years. Now that the Spirit Mastery Race was in their home, they definitely couldn't tolerate it. Who? Killing intent filled the air, and the atmosphere was somber. Swish! Jun Changshao hurriedly flew over and stood in front of Rose of Flowers, who was comprehending soul power. He said coldly, "What do you want?" "Brat!" The Taoist-robed elder said angrily, "No wonder you dare to trespass into my Imperial Heaven realm. So you are a spy sent by the Imperial Soul realm." The fact that Rose of Flowers could activate her soul rings made them certain that she was from the Spirit Mastery clan, so Jun Changshao was inevitably implicated. "Kill this woman. How dare you come to the Imperial Celestial realm?" As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. The experts present all glared at each other. Although the atmosphere of the previous 3 battles was solemn, it was still harmonious overall. However, the current situation was filled with killing intent. "Kill her?" Jun Changshao said, "Who dares?" The expression on his face did not change, and his tone was very calm. "This guy is getting serious." The system understood Goshen quite well. When he was not sad, not happy, not proud, not impatient, not servile, not overbearing, and when he was a man of few words, he would enter a super serious state. Along the way, such situations had occurred before. For example, he had bombarded the extreme coldness palace for his eldest disciple. For his eldest disciple, strange. The system was puzzled. Every time the host enters a super serious state, why is it always related to women? Li Qingyang, Yi Xingchen, and the other male disciples did not receive such treatment at all. "Let me give you a piece of advice." Jun Changshao took out the utmost perfection immortal sword and placed it in front of him. He said coldly, "Don't do anything stupid." Caw caw. Light gathered around him and condensed into a great holy set. With so many half-step divine secrets, if they really fought, it would be difficult to deal with them. Therefore, he could not hide his various trump cards. Whoosh! Behind him, Rose of Flowers was still surrounded by fluorescent light. Her appearance was even more beautiful, and her temperament was even more refined. The two of them were only half a step apart. Facing so many top experts, if Li Tian was here, he would have taken a photo long ago. The old man in the Taoist robe shouted coldly, "The Imperial Celestial Realm and the Spirit Mastery Realm have a feud. We will not allow enemies to tarnish our home. Since you are not from the Spirit Mastery race, please leave quickly." Jun Changshao's strength was obvious to all in the battle just now. Naturally, they were not willing to clash with him. "Sorry," Jun Changshao said, Although I am not from the spirit mastery race, I am their son-in-law. So direct? The system was a little surprised. The powerhouse from the Imperial Celestial Realm frowned, because the other party's meaning was obvious. He was husband and wife with that woman. What should they do? Should they fight or not? Just as they were in a dilemma, the fluorescent light around rows of flowers gradually disappeared. She took a step forward and stopped behind Jun Changshao. She smiled and said, "How do you know I am from the spirit mastery race? It's so obvious. I can think of it with my toes." Jun Changshao looked annoyed on the surface, but in fact, he was releasing his spiritual sense to see if there were any changes in her. It seemed, nothing had changed. Rows of Flowers said, "I have obtained a lot of pure soul power from the soul ring. Breaking through to the peak of the truth-seeking realm is just around the corner. And I want to go to the spirit mastery realm." Jun Changshao turned his head and looked at the powerhouse from the Imperial Celestial Realm. "After dealing with these people, I will take you there." Rows of Flowers said, "Do you need my help?" "There are so many people, of course." Jun Changshao was not as shameless as before. Now that there were too many strong enemies, he would definitely not refuse to provide combat strength for himself. Rows of Flowers leaned her face against his back. When her body gradually blurred, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. From the cold treatment at the beginning, to the duplicity in the future, to the half-hearted refusal now, didn't it prove that he was slowly accepting her? People. Things would change. There was nothing more than fast and slow. After nearly 2,000 chapters, there was finally Yixingchen who was wholeheartedly devoted to the sect. Whoosh! Whoosh! Rows of flowers merged into his body, and the grassland green attribute enveloped him. Fusion of two souls. The powerhouse from the Imperial Celestial Realm had fought with the Spirit Mastery race for so long that he knew their abilities like the back of his hand. Shwa! Right at this moment, Jun Changshao waved his hand, and the green attribute gathered around him entered his body. His eyebrows and eyes had already turned dark green. Why didn't his hair change? Because he was wearing a wig. Pfft! Just as Gongsun Junrose finished her transformation, someone on the opposite side could not help but laugh. It's actually a green soul. I've fought with the Spirit Mastery race on the battlefield for hundreds of years. I've seen blue soul, black soul, but I've never seen green soul. The Spirit Mastery realm has a rule that low-level green soul clansmen are not allowed to enter the battlefield. Everyone looked at Jun Changshao, whose entire body was glowing green, and their eyes were filled with disdain. To be able to follow this guy, they thought that the woman's strength was extraordinary. In the end, she was just a green soul. In the Spirit Mastery realm, she would probably have the life of a servant. Although Jun Changshao did not understand much, he could see the sarcasm in their expressions. Anger surged in his heart, and he said in a mixed male and female voice, "You guys won't be able to laugh soon." Clang! The ultimate immortal sword was unsheathed, and sword chi quickly spread out. At the same time, he leaped up and hung in midair. Whoosh whoosh! The sharp sword chi spread out in all directions. Wherever it passed, stones, soil, and branches floated up, and then were enveloped by the sword light and flew over. Whoosh! 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 After a while, the dense sword chi gathered behind Jun Changshao, and the scene was spectacular. This, Gong Baiyu's eyes widened. The sharp sword chi spreading in the air was several times stronger than before. "All of you, cry!" Jun Changshao shouted, and the surrounding sword chi instantly gathered together, turning into a giant sword that was like a mountain peak, and pressed down on the group of Spirit Mastery realm experts who had gathered together and whose smiles had frozen. Chapter 1705. Jun Changshao had just used the first move of 10,000 swords in one in the battle with Gong Baiyu, but that was just an appetizer. Now, he had to use the second move of all things as swords to be the appetizer. Whoosh! The giant sword as big as a mountain smashed down. At that moment, heaven and earth were overshadowed, and mountains and rivers collapsed into nothingness. The special effect was so shocking. The warriors from the Imperial Celestial Realm who were mocking Su-Kei didn't cry, but their eyes were full of fear. Their scalps were about to explode when they felt the unrestrained sword momentum. They thought that Jun Changshao defeated Gong Baiyu with the help of weapons. In fact, even without weapons, he still had martial arts techniques. As his cultivation level got higher and higher, many martial arts techniques were not eliminated. Instead, they were revived, such as the 10,000 swords in one. Of course, Jun Changshao also had some regrets. He had started to practice this sword technique in the mortal world. He had mastered the first two moves, but he still couldn't figure out the third move. If I were a sword, there would be no sword in the world. The name alone sounded very domineering. Whoosh! Whoosh! The giant sword pressed down slowly, and its momentum increased instead of decreasing. Normally, the warriors from the Imperial Celestial Realm could take the opportunity to dodge, but they all stood still, as if they were too scared to do anything. It was not that they didn't want to dodge, but that the giant sword was extremely oppressive and disturbed the surrounding space system. Even if they tried to escape, it would be useless. Guys! The old man in the Taoist robe shouted, "Let's fight together." Okay. In an instant, the dozens of people who were shrouded by the giant sword decided to stick together. Then they released their cultivation and condensed a solid defensive boundary in the air. Traceless Great Tao. The old man in the Taoist robe waved his right hand, and something like a horsetail whisk flew out of his sleeve. Buzz! The space shook, and a huge word Tao appeared, releasing billowing Tao intent into the defensive boundary, which made it look much tougher. This was a defensive treasure, which was as powerful as the spear of the racing tiger. Golden Sun Ming Tian. Wind Flame Jade Tripod. Seeing the old man in the Taoist robe use his trump card, the other warriors didn't hold back and activated their treasures and weapons. In a short time, in the path that the giant sword had to pass through, a substantial barrier was formed. Colorful supreme treasures were suspended in the surroundings, forming an indestructible line of defense. Dozens of half-step experts from the Imperial Celestial Realm were fighting against one person. They were prepared to face a formidable enemy and used all their trump cards. Give me face. Humph. Lord Rose raised her hand as if she was the ruler of all living things. She said, "How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the moon?" Press. Hoo-hoo. The giant sword carried a power that could shake the heavens and the earth, and it pressed toward the defensive line formed by the enchantment and all kinds of treasures. Its momentum was so great that it forced the deep pit to gradually expand, and the surrounding ground was torn apart by the impact. No matter what the outcome of this battle was, the damage caused to the environment by his strength and sword aura was irreparable. The system couldn't help but complain, is it because the manga is about to be changed, so they added some battle scenes to forcefully change the silly style into a hot-blooded style? Boom! It was at this moment that the giant sword, which carried a terrifying might, smashed against the enchantment enchanted by various treasures and powers. The space cracked, and the earth trembled. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Boom! A moment later, the horsetail whisk called the Traceless Great Tao couldn't bear the burden and shattered into starlight on the spot. The old man in the Taoist robe didn't have time to feel sorry for the treasures because the counterforce shook his blood and mind. He was instantly sent flying while vomiting blood. Boom, boom, boom. The Traceless Great Tao shattered, which led to a chain reaction. The treasures and weapons of many experts also shattered. Those who possessed them all vomited blood and flew out in a gorgeous posture. The defensive enchantment could have held on for a while, but with so many people flying out, it was difficult to stabilize it in time. So, boom! Puff 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 puff. The defensive enchantment was mercilessly crushed, and all the warriors present were sent flying out. At the same time, the giant sword didn't reduce its power and smashed heavily on the ground. When the second boom came out, the entire area was filled with billowing dust. The deep pit nearby continued to expand, and it had already developed from a cliff to a canyon. The camera turned to the universe and the ancient fleet. After Yixingchen finished his cultivation, he stood in front of the window thoughtfully. What happened in the sky spill world had happened a long time ago, but it was still unforgettable, especially when he couldn't help but recall what happened in the stone chamber. The worst thing was, he couldn't remember the important scenes no matter how hard he tried. He even secretly cursed himself. Did he do it or not? Suddenly, Yixingchen noticed visible ripples surging from the imperial celestial world that looked like a light spot far away outside the window. At this time, the giant sword just happened to fall. This meant that the movement caused by Jun Changxiao's sword could not only be seen in the plane, but also in the universe. It could be said to be extremely terrifying. Damn! In the cafeteria, the disciples gathered around the windows and watched the ripples of sword intent spread. They all widened their eyes and said, "What's going on? Get out of the way, get out of the way." Su Xiaoma said, "Let me see." This guy was beaten up by Yixingchen. Although he didn't suffer any internal injuries, the bumps and bruises on his head had not disappeared. He squeezed through the crowd and looked very funny. Coincidentally, Zhou Hong was also eating in the cafeteria. He neatly arranged his chopsticks on the bowl and closed his eyes to feel everything around him. When he touched the ripples of sword intent that was already very weak, he said, "It's Patriarch." "It can't be." Su Xiaoma said, "You can even see through this?" The camera returned to the imperial celestial world and the battlefield. The dust gradually dispersed, leaving behind traces of tear in the air as if the sky had been split open. The most shocking thing was the ground. The giant sword directly smashed a bottomless trench, which was no different from a canyon. Dozens of powerhouses lay scattered on both sides of the deep trench. Although their lives were saved, their faces were all pale and their bodies were weak. Without exception, they were all injured. Thud! Lord Rose landed in front of the old man in the Taoist robe and said, "I told you not to do anything stupid." "You!" The old man in the Taoist robe was more seriously injured. Jun Changxiao raised his hand, picked him up in the air, and put him around his neck. He said, "This is also considered as a sparring partner. You have to pay the commission, otherwise." He paused and said, "You will all die." Go Sheng. Of course. Jun Changxiao added, "You are all top powerhouses in the imperial celestial world. If you all die, how can the others compete with the soul mastery world?" Here, the old man in the Taoist robe wanted to be tough, but after hearing what he said, he immediately chose to compromise. Because it was true. Jun Changxiao was submissive when it came to relationships, but when it came to extortion, he would definitely hit hard. Of course. It was not much. It was all according to the 1,000,000 spiritual stones that Gong Baiyu had given them earlier. If he could take out a sword cultivator, he could naturally take out a group of martial cultivators who were half a step away from the Tianji realm. There were 50 people present. 1,000,000 spiritual stones per person, that was 50 million spiritual stones. Not bad. Looking at the mountain of resources in the space ring, Jun Changxiao smiled and then walked to Hong Tianyo and said, "Where is the independent battlefield? Can we enter the soul mastery world?" Chapter 1706. There was a barren land in the imperial celestial world, known as the Desolate Wilderness. A long time ago, this area was suddenly shrouded in black light, which lasted for a few years and gradually formed a space vortex that led to other areas. At first, many powerhouses thought that this was the birth of a treasure, so they went in to explore. In the end, they encountered the spirit mastery race, and both sides started a long battle. This was defined as a war between the two races by later generations. As for the other end of the space link, it was called the independent battlefield. It was better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Why couldn't the two planes sit together and chat peacefully? The reason was simple. Although the environment in the independent battlefield was harsh, it nurtured a huge amount of martial arts resources, such as first-class spirit stones. That was right. Most of the resources that Jun Changshao obtained from Gong Baiyu and the others came from the independent battlefield. What about the other small part? The story started from the Imperial Celestial World. Although this plane was big, its heaven and earth attributes were not strong in the past. It was not until the appearance of the space vortex that the majestic spiritual energy that emerged from inside began to slowly increase. The Imperial Celestial World's attributes were at its current level because of the independent battlefield. Moreover, after countless years, the majestic spiritual energy merged into the ground and began to gather in the spirit stone veins, which were then mined one after another, and another small part was created. The spirit stones produced by the planes were of different quality, and the quantity was very scarce, so if one wanted to obtain more of higher quality, they had to go to the independent battlefield, so there were people entering almost every moment. It was strange that these two planes had been fighting and mining at the same time, but the veins were still not completely dug out, giving people the feeling that they were inexhaustible. Resources. Martial artists valued them the most. How could the Imperial Celestial World and the Imperial Spirit World give it up? If you don't give it up, I won't give it up. If you want more, I want more. Then there was no other way, they could only choose by fighting. After Jun Changshao learned about the independent battlefield from Gong Baiyu, he took the rows of flowers all the way to the desolate wilderness, and asked in surprise, "Is it that magical?" He did not care how many years the two planes had been fighting, nor how many people had died. What he cared about was that the independent battlefield could actually supply spiritual energy endlessly, and there were majestic veins inside. The upper realm did not have such treatment. Even his own sect did not have such treatment. The system said, "The world is so big, nothing is too strange. There's no need for the host to be surprised." Jun Changshao rubbed his hands and said, "This so-called independent battlefield does not belong to the Imperial Heaven Realm, nor does it belong to the Imperial Soul Realm. I can go in and look for the mines." First-grade fire stone's attribute was relatively simple and was very suitable to be used as fuel. First-grade spirit stones were stronger than upper-realm celestial stones and were extremely suitable for cultivation. Naturally, he hoped to have more of them. AI. The system sighed, "The independent battlefield is going to be in trouble." On the way, Rose of Flowers did not speak. She did not care about the battlefield, nor did she care about the mine. What she cared about was that the spirit mastery race and the spiritlings were of the same origin. Did that mean that the ancestors had moved out from the soul mastery realm? Also, did the blue soul and black soul mentioned by the cultivators of the Imperial Celestial Realm represent the purity of the bloodline? Thinking of this, Rose of Flowers' face gradually became worried. They called themselves green souls. They said that they were inferior clansmen. Jun Changshao saw that Rose of Flowers' expression was strange and asked, "What are you thinking about?" "I'm wondering if I should go to the soul control realm." "Do you still need to think?" "Of course you have to go." In Jun Changshao's opinion, the spirit mastery race must be related to the spiritlings. Even a soul ring could help, so she definitely had to go to this plane. Maybe she could awaken some bloodline. "I'm afraid." Rose of Flowers paused for a moment and said, "I'll be discriminated against when I go in." The cultivators of the Imperial Celestial Realm mocked her because of her green soul. If she went to the Spirit Mastery Realm, she would probably be hit hard. As long as you can become stronger, you don't have to care about other people's opinions. We'll talk about it later. I just took over the Iron Bone and only had one disciple under me. Didn't I slowly stand up in the midst of ridicule and contempt? When Jun Changshao brought Lu Qianqian to Qingyang City at the beginning of the game, he was indeed despised by his peers. However, he was thick-skinned and did not take it seriously at all. It's impossible for a person to have a smooth life. When you encounter a problem, you should face it head-on. Rose of Flowers muttered in her heart, "Why are you talking so much?" "Of course." Jun Changshao said, "If anyone dares to discriminate against you, I'll help you kill them." Rose of Flowers stopped. She looked at the back that gave her a sense of security and warmth rose in her heart. Then, she brushed the hair on her forehead and smiled sweetly. Thank you. Don't misunderstand. Jun Changxiao's expression turned from stern to cold. He said, I'm helping you because of the sect. Rose of Flowers muttered in her heart, when is he going to escape? Don't be in a daze. Jun Changxiao said, let's go. Oh. In order to avoid spreading dog food and causing mental damage to a certain reader, the two did not talk much on the way. It was not until 2 hours later that they finally arrived at the barren desolate wilderness and saw the dark vortex hanging in the sky from afar. Whoosh! Whoosh! After a while, Jun Changxiao and Rose of Flowers flew over. Because the vortex led to the independent battlefield, there was a medium-sized fortress nearby. Anyone who wanted to enter had to report. Who's there? On the sentry tower, a warrior saw 2 streams of light flying over and hurriedly shouted at the top of his voice. Sutra seekers from Tang of the East. Tang of the East? The guards looked at each other. Obviously, they had never heard of it. Whoosh! At this moment, Jun Changxiao flew over with Rose of Flowers. He had no intention of entering the fortress at all. If it was before, he might have wanted to experience the local customs of this plane. Now, he focused on the independent battlefield and the spiritual stone vein. Oh no! They're going to break into the fortress. Hurry up and stop them. Hurry up and stop them. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, warriors in armor like soldiers flew out of the fortress and tried to stop the 2 strangers who were rushing over. Get out! Jun Changxiao waved his hands and the sky-crossing palm appeared and directly slapped hundreds of soldiers out of the way. Boom! Boom! The palm pressed down on the empty ground, leaving a 5-finger-deep pit. Seeing this, the soldiers in the fortress who were not attacked were so shocked that their hair stood on end. This man! He's too strong. Jun Changxiao intended to enter the independent battlefield without any killing intent. Otherwise, not to mention the soldiers in the way, even the fortress would be destroyed. After breaking through the layers of defense, the vortex was close at hand. Let's go! Jun Changxiao grabbed Rose of Flowers and held her in his arms. His feet turned into jets, bursting with hot light, and then rushed into the dark vortex at an extremely fast speed. The whole process happened in a flash. When the soldiers who were knocked out stood up, the 2 had completely merged into the vortex. Damn it! Who's that guy? There are words in the palm pits. A soldier exclaimed. Everyone looked down and saw the word handsome carved in the 5-finger-deep pits. They roared in their hearts, that guy must be bored. Chapter 1707. Imperial Celestial World and Soul Mastery World both had dark vortexes, and the place they were connected to was an independent battlefield. Strictly speaking, this was actually a plane, with majestic heaven and earth attributes and perfect heaven and earth order, and its level was even higher than the 2 major planes. However, there was one thing that was very strange. Martial artists could freely adjust the attributes and use martial arts here, but they could not absorb and refine them. The Imperial Celestial World and Soul Mastery World had been studying it, but they could not find the reason. If the problem of not being able to absorb heaven and earth attributes was solved, the war between the 2 races would definitely escalate, from snatching resources to snatching planes. There were resources and attributes. Who wouldn't want to take such a good place for themselves? Not to mention them, even Jun Changxiao felt the heaven and earth attributes stronger than those of the Imperial Celestial World when he flew in. He sighed. The upper realm can't compare at all, it's not even qualified to carry shoes. Unfortunately, his spiritual senses spread out for thousands of miles, but it was all wilderness, and the environment was worrying. It's not a big problem. Jun Changxiao said to himself, it can be transplanted to make it green. The host doesn't plan to travel the stars, but to settle down here? I'm just thinking about it. The independent battlefield was good, but Jun Changxiao would not stay. There were only 2 purposes for coming here, one was to find the spirit stone vein, and the other was to see if he could use this place to enter the soul mastery world. In fact, the Imperial Celestial World and the Soul Mastery World only had similar names, and they were not neighbors. They were closely connected because of the battlefield. Husband. Rose of Flowers said, "What should we do? What else can we do?" Jun Changshao shrugged his shoulders and flew into the sky with her in his arms. "Of course we're running." It turned out that the two entered the independent battlefield from the Dark Vortex, and the area they were in happened to be the stronghold built by the Imperial Celestial World. Not only were there a large number of martial artists stationed there, but according to the rules, newcomers had to hand in their permission tokens. "What are you waiting for? Hand it over." A large group of martial artists surrounded the two, and the atmosphere was tense. "Here." Jun Changshao threw out a piece of paper. The martial artist in charge of the review took it and saw the word "handsome" on it and was stunned. When he came to his senses, there was the scene of Gosheng flying out of the stronghold with Rose of Flowers in his arms. "Chase after him. Don't let them escape." Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, tens of thousands of martial artists emerged from the stronghold. The momentum and commotion were really quite big. Seeing them charging over, Jun Changshao broke down and said, "Is this necessary?" There were clear rules in the Imperial Celestial Realm that one had to report to enter the independent station and obtain approval. Anyone who barged in would definitely be taken care of. However, Gosheng's current strength might not be considered much in the upper universe, but when it came to running away, his 1.3-meter-long legs were definitely not for show. Swish! He went all out and his speed soared. In just an instant, all the warriors of the Imperial Celestial Realm were stunned in midair because Gosheng had already disappeared. He was so fast that they couldn't even see his tail lights. They could only crazily suck in the fumes that had yet to dissipate. They should be glad that Brother Go's heart wasn't in killing. Otherwise, once Brother Go's blade was drawn, they would all be sent to meet the King of Hell. Swish! A stream of light flashed through the sky. The speed of the car was so fast that it left people speechless. Ga. After a while, Jun Changshao stopped in a relatively safe area and said proudly, "Chasing me? Too young." Husband. Rose of Flowers, who was lying in his arms, raised her head. Her eyes were shining as she said, "Your hair fell off." Jun Changshao touched his head and found that the magically modified wig was gone. He broke down and said, "It must have been blown off by the wind because I was flying too fast. Next time, I must use superglue to fix it." Ha ha ha. The system couldn't help but laugh. After flying for a while, he became bald. This scene was too funny. "No." Jun Changshao turned around and said, "I have to go back and look for it." The system said, "It's not expensive, and there are no purchase restrictions." "Why do you need it?" "You know nothing." Jun Changshao said, "It's a kind of feeling." The system was speechless. "Don't find excuses for your stinginess." Swish! Jun Changshao carried Rose of Flowers back the way he came. His spiritual senses spread around, looking for the magically modified wig that was blown off. Speaking of which, he could have put her down and looked for her again. Why did he have a habit of not letting go since he entered the Imperial Heaven Realm? Found it. After walking for a distance, Jun Changshao's spiritual senses captured the magically modified wig that fell on the ground. So he swooped down and was about to raise his hand to grab it, boom. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Roar! A huge mouth rushed out of the soil. Not only did it eat the sand, but it also swallowed the wig into its stomach. Jun Changshao stopped abruptly and said sadly, "Wig." Crack! Crack! The demon beast that seemed to have only one mouth chewed happily. It felt that the taste was not right, so it spat it out again. Seeing that his wig was covered in saliva and there was even a pungent smell, Jun Changshao's ears stood up, his eyes widened, and he roared, "I'm going to kill you." Swish! Rows of flowers was thrown out. Swish! Gosheng angrily carried the RPG rocket launcher on his shoulder and crazily pulled the trigger at the big mouth beast. Bang! 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 For a time, the artillery fire filled the sky with great momentum. The system roared, "Is it worth wasting so many artillery shells for 1,000 contribution points wig?" Although the RPG rocket launcher rarely appeared, as long as it was charged with high-level crystal cores and spirit stones, its power was still quite strong. In a short while, it blasted a huge pit into the ground. However, if the artillery shells were converted into resources, it would be at least a few million profound stones. Now that the contribution points were worthless, it would be stupid to bombard the big mouth beast for a wig. Swish! After the bombardment, Jun Changshao put away the rocket launcher, held the green dragon crescent blade in his left hand and the immortal sword in his right hand, and rushed into the billowing dust, intending to tear that guy into pieces. Crazy! The system collapsed. The host is crazy. Damn it! Jun Changshao rushed in and found that although the ground had been blasted into a huge pit, there was still a hole, which proved that the big mouth beast had already burrowed into the ground and escaped. Ah! He shouted, "You can't run away." After saying that, he jumped into the hole and chased after it. As for the magic-modified wig that represented feelings, it had already turned into nothingness in the bombardment just now. The hole was very deep and very dark. Jun Changshao, who was in a fit of anger, did not care about anything and chased after it. The killing intent in his eyes became stronger and stronger. However, after walking for a short distance, the tunnel had obviously narrowed. This meant that the big mouth beast should have shrunk its body, thus increasing its speed of escape. Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. Jun Changshao waved his blade and sword, digging a path while chasing after it. Ding! 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 Because there were a lot of ores buried underground, the collision of weapons not only caused a crisp sound, but also brought about sparks. Soon, Jun Changshao rushed into a place similar to a cave and saw the big mouth beast curled up at the edge with nowhere to escape. "You fucking run." Just as he finished speaking, Gosheng was stunned. Because the walls around the cave were inlaid with many spirit stones that covered half of the surface, and because of the environment, they emitted a gorgeous light. Damn! Chapter 1708. Whoosh! On the independent battlefield, a stream of light suddenly rose up, as if it had pierced through heaven and earth. In the Imperial Celestial Realm stronghold, the powerhouses who had failed to catch up with Jun Changshao and returned dejectedly saw this, and their eyes lit up. The mineral vein has appeared. Gather, everyone gather. In an instant, the stronghold became lively and restless. Then, tens of thousands of martial artists flew out in unison, heading toward the light that had pierced through heaven and earth. The light soared into the sky, and the mineral vein appeared. This was the experience summarized by the powerhouses of the Imperial Celestial Realm, and it had never been wrong. Therefore, when they rushed over this time, everyone had already prepared elixirs and sharpened their weapons, ready to fight the Spirit Mastery race. Elder Lin, one of the powerhouses, said, "This stream of light is huge, the mineral vein is probably not small." "That's right." The old man called Elder Lin nodded and said, "At least a large mineral vein." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. A large mineral vein contains at least a few billion spirit stones. If the Imperial Celestial Realm occupied and mined it, it would definitely be an unimaginable amount of money. Everyone, Elder Lin said seriously as he flew, the stream of light is closer to the stronghold of the Imperial Celestial Realm. When we arrive, set up a defense line, and never allow the Spirit Mastery race to rush in. Okay. Whoosh! 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 Soon, tens of thousands of martial artists led by Elder Lin walked to the periphery of the stream of light, and then quickly pulled apart the defense line. Hundreds of array masters even found a place to work together to set up various defensive arrays. The appearance of the stream of light indicated the birth of the mineral vein, but it would take some time, so the only thing the Imperial Celestial Realm could do was to set up a formation to prevent the Spirit Mastery race from seizing it. East, set up. West, set up. One after another, people reported the situation of the defense line. From the extremely nimble movements, it was obvious that they had experienced a lot. Strange. A martial artist who set up the formation in the north stood in front of the scorched black pit and wondered, why is there a pit? Why is there a hole? Senior son, is it not done yet? Soon, soon. That person did not bother about the pit but chose to go around it. He skillfully inserted array flags and linked them together with the array masters nearby, forming an array system that covered an extremely wide range. It would only take 15 minutes. The originally ordinary and desolate land was now covered by all kinds of formations, turning into an indestructible military fortress. The Imperial Celestial Realm did not let down their guard. They began to arrange personnel to take up the necessary positions. The people of the Imperial Soul Realm had yet to arrive, but the atmosphere was already tense. Swish! Swish! All of a sudden, streams of light flew over from afar. There were so many of them that they looked like a swarm of locusts. He's here. Elder Lin's expression was grave. The tens of thousands of warriors of the Imperial Celestial Realm did the same, but no one was afraid, and no one retreated. Those that dared to enter the independent battlefield all hoped to obtain spirit stones. Now that a large mine was about to appear, even if they died in battle, they wouldn't give it up. Whoosh! Whoosh! The dense streams of light stopped outside the defensive array formation. When the light scattered, tall and sturdy martial artists appeared. From their appearances, they looked extremely similar to the Spiritas, especially their eyes that shined with a strange luster. That was right. This was the Spirit Mastery tribe. There were many women who came this time. Although they were not necessarily beautiful, their aura was very similar to that of rows of flowers. In summary, the Spirit Mastery tribe was related to the Spiritas. Jun Changshao just described himself as the son-in-law of the Spirit Mastery tribe. These people were either his brothers-in-law, or sisters-in-law. The leader of the coarse middle-aged men sneered. The Imperial Celestial Realm came quite quickly. Ha! Elder Lin said with a fake smile, compared to 2 years ago, you're still a little lacking. 2 years ago, a medium-sized mine appeared near the stronghold of the Imperial Soul Realm. When the people of the Imperial Celestial Realm rushed over, the defense line was already 800 miles away. In my opinion, the coarse middle-aged man said, our races have been fighting for the mine for years. It's too damaging. Why don't we negotiate peacefully? Bah! An expert said coldly, the Imperial Celestial Realm occupied the best position in advance, and the Imperial Soul Realm started to negotiate. Do you have any shame? Besides, why didn't you negotiate when the mine appeared 2 years ago? All right. The coarse middle-aged man shrugged and said, since the Imperial Celestial Realm doesn't want to negotiate, the Imperial Soul Realm can only use force. To be honest, he really didn't want to bring people over. After all, the other party occupied the best position and set up a heavy defense line. They would definitely suffer heavy losses if they fought. Come on. The expert of the Imperial Celestial Realm said, who's afraid of who? TSK, the coarse middle-aged man snorted. He didn't bring his subordinates to attack immediately. He stood quietly outside the defense line. The martial artists of the Imperial Celestial Realm also didn't plan to attack. They had to fight, but they had to wait until the flowing light disappeared. Because only then would the mine be completely unearthed. Otherwise, if there were any accidents, the ground would be affected, and it was very likely that all their efforts would be in vain. The total number of martial artists of the two planes had exceeded 100,000. They were in a stalemate, and the killing intent was getting stronger. Unsurprisingly, after the mine appeared, this place would become a cruel slaughterhouse. Killing for resources, dying for resources. This was the most common scene in the martial arts world. It was also the law of nature that best reflected the law of the jungle and the survival of the fittest. Time passed slowly. Once it was gone, it would never return. Whoosh! 2 days later, the flowing light that pierced through heaven and earth came to an abrupt stop. This area first regained its usual peace, and then it was shrouded in intense killing intent and hostility. Kill! Kill! Tens of thousands of martial artists of the Imperial Soul Realm roared angrily and rushed toward the defensive formation like a flood of beasts. The flowing light disappeared, and the mine appeared. They had to break through the layers of defense as soon as possible. Fight! Elder Lin shouted. Hum! Hum! The 4 connected formations in the north, south, east, and west began to operate. Layers of barriers quickly condensed, and the defensive strength increased by several times. A fierce battle was about to take place. Boom! However, before the experts of the Imperial Soul Realm could rush over, the defensive system of the northern region suddenly suffered a violent internal impact, and a huge gap immediately appeared. What's the situation? Elder Lin shouted. The Imperial Soul Realm was about to attack. If the defensive line suddenly collapsed, it would definitely affect the other systems, and thus become a tofu dregs project. Elder Lin! A powerhouse exclaimed. Someone rushed out. Needless to say, Elder Lin also saw it. That was an extremely fast-flowing light. After breaking through the defensive line of the northern formation, it quickly disappeared into the sky. Elder Lin's spiritual sense barely managed to keep up with the speed of the car. Seeing that it was the man and woman who broke into the stronghold earlier, he said in shock, "Why are they inside?" Boom! Suddenly, the ground began to shake, and it quickly collapsed and caved in. The surrounding formations were quickly destroyed as the carriers twisted and changed. Then, they stopped operating, and the barriers were quickly extinguished like candles. Boom! Boom! The ground shook for a long time, and the dust it stirred up covered the sky. The experts of the Imperial Soul Realm were all dumbfounded. We haven't even started to break the formation. How did it disintegrate from the inside? The heavens are helping me. The coarse middle-aged man shouted, "Charge in with all your might. Kill! Kill!" The ground stopped shaking. The dust in the sky completely dissipated. The murderous aura that gathered in the air disappeared without a trace. This was because the experts of the Imperial Soul Realm and the Imperial Soul Realm didn't fight. They hung in the air in a friendly manner, and each of them was dumbfounded. Below, everything was clearly visible. There was a very, very deep pit. It looked very much like a mine, but there was nothing inside. There wasn't even the slightest bit of heaven and earth attribute that was so dense that it would explode after the birth of a mine. There were more than 100,000 martial artists in the 2 planes. At this moment, they all had question marks on their faces. Where was the mine? Where were the spirit stones? Could it have been taken away by a dog? Chapter 1709. That's right. The warriors from the 2 realms guessed correctly. The spirit stone vein that was revealed after the collapse was indeed taken away by the dog, and there was nothing left. As a matter of fact, Jun Changshao was definitely related to the sudden rise of the light and the appearance of the mineral vein. It was because the large-mouthed beast had accidentally broken through the spirit vein's barrier while it was being chased. That was why the light had soared into the sky. This was fate. Then there was a problem. The vein was triggered by Jun Changshao chasing the big-mouthed beast. Was it wrong to take away all the spirit stones inside? Damn it! How can there be no spirit stones? The powerhouses from the 2 realms stood in the air. Their expressions were very interesting. According to past practice, as long as there was a natural phenomenon, there would definitely be a vein. In fact, this was indeed the case, but there was only an empty vein left. After confirming that there were no spirit stones, the rough middle-aged man said angrily, "Let's go, let's go." Whoosh! Whoosh! Tens of thousands of Imperial Soul Realm warriors flew away. The Imperial Soul Realm did not stop them. They hesitated in the empty vein for a while and left dejectedly. The two realms were fighting for the vein, but there was nothing in the end, so naturally they would not fight. In this way, Jun Changshao not only obtained a large number of spirit stones, but also resolved a battle and saved countless lives. It could be said that his merit was boundless. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. On a bare mountain peak, Gosheng covered his face and laughed like a dog. Because he did not wear a wig, his head looked particularly shiny. Laughing so happily, he must have gained a lot. Although the mining process was not described in detail, in fact, a large vein was dug and billions of first-grade spirit stones were obtained, as well as a spirit stone's mother. Speaking of spirit stones' mothers, they had to talk about mystical stones and Dao stones' mothers. Before Jun Changshao left the upper realm, he brought both kinds of materials that could be bred on the ship, mainly because he was worried that they would be stolen in the sect. Dog's hit system. After laughing, Jun Changshao raised his head and chest and said, "Do you think it's worth it or not?" The system was silent. Just now, for a magically modified wig, he crazily bombarded the big-mouthed beast. It had complained before, but in the end, he unexpectedly obtained a vein. Sure enough, the professional was slapped in the face, but never surpassed. TSK, it's just luck. I don't believe the host can find another vein. Thank you. Jun Changshao was instantly excited. With the poison healer in action, they might be able to find another one. Although he had placed all his disciples on the battleship and started the era of space travel, he still had to develop the sect and make them stronger. Therefore, the more martial arts resources he had, the better. What is this little guy? Jun Changshao stretched out his left hand. There was a caterpillar in his palm. This was the big-mouthed beast that had fled in a panic. Due to the shock, its body had shrunk to the size of a peanut. At this moment, the little guy was shivering. It was mainly because he had eaten Gosheng's wig. He was traumatized by the bombardment. Jun Changshao picked it up and said, "You should have spiritual intelligence and can understand human language. I'll count to 3 to introduce yourself, otherwise, I'm the guardian beast." Without waiting for him to finish, the little fellow took the initiative to confess. His awareness was quite high. Yes. Protect the spirit vein. Oh? Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. Could it be that this was the reason why he was able to find the mineral vein so easily? However, such a cowardly fellow actually knew how to protect the spirit vein. This was simply nonsense. The guardian beast said, "My other duty is to eat spirit stones." Jun Changshao rolled his eyes, and said, "In my opinion, you are only responsible for eating, not protecting." As if hit the nail on the head, the little guy was speechless. Jun Changshao asked, "Can you find the spirit vein?" No. Seeing that the human's eyes had suddenly become incomparably cold, the guardian beast hurriedly said, "Yes, I can find it." Very good. Jun Changshao put him back into his palm, used his index finger to tease him, and said, "Relax your mind and sign a contract with me." Ha! The little guy was dumbfounded. Don't waste time. All right. The guardian beast was really scared. It immediately relaxed its mind and established a contract with him. At this point, Jun Changshao's beast library had another member. Although it was destined to be a bystander in the future and not even have a camera, the main point was that it could be used now. Fuck. The system said, "Am I going to be slapped in the face again?" Heaven-defying good luck would not come repeatedly. Now that he had a guardian spirit beast that could search for spirit veins, it would be much easier. For 30 years, the professional poison healer had never been surpassed. Are there any spirit stone veins nearby? I don't think so. If there is, then there is. If there isn't, then there isn't. Why does it seem so? The little guy said weakly, only within 100 feet of me can I detect the aura of the spirit vein. Jun Changshao picked it up again, and said, then what do I need you for? The area of the independent battlefield was definitely not small, and the spirit stone vein was located deep underground. It could only be seen within 100 feet, so it was completely useless. Master. The guardian beast said, the stronger I am, the greater the range of my prying. How do you become stronger? Eat spirit stones. I haven't found the ore yet, so I have to raise you first. Yes. Bye-bye. Jun Changshao flicked his finger, and the little guy immediately flew out. Night. In a cave in the wilderness. After Rose of Flowers ate the prepared food, she looked at Jun Changshao, who was thinking about something, with a sweet smile on her face. In the sect of all times, she would turn into a virtuous wife who handled internal affairs. Now that she was in the outside world, there were no higher-ups or disciples, so she naturally enjoyed this kind of two-person world. Especially, her husband's brain was so bright. Shwa. After thinking for a while, Jun Changshao took out a spirit stone and said, eat. During the day, he had walked hundreds of thousands of miles around the battlefield and confirmed that this place was extremely vast, but he did not find any spirit stone veins at all. He still had to go to the Soul Mastery realm and did not have time to search thoroughly, so he could only pin his hopes on the guardian beast that could become stronger by eating spirit stones. Thank you, Master. The little guy did not stand on ceremony. Its body expanded slightly and opened its mouth to swallow the spirit stone. It felt like it did not even chew. Finished eating. Finished eating. The expression on Jun Changshao's face was wonderful. Even if he was using cheats, it would take time to absorb spirit stones. This guy finished it in one bite. It was a bit too exaggerated. This was normal. Special beasts naturally had special abilities. Has your strength increased? No. Clang. The immortal sword was unsheathed and placed under its mouth. The little guy stammered, Moss. Master, one spirit stone can't bring me too much energy. Then how much do you need? At least 100,000. Bam! The little guy hit the stone wall and then slid down. Jun Changshao roared, your appetite is so big, eat shit. If he wanted to make the guardian beast stronger, 1 or 10 was definitely not enough. He had to increase his appetite. Sigh. After thinking for a night, Jun Changshao still took out a few hundred spirit stones and said, hurry up and eat them to make me stronger. The two of them had already established a contractual relationship, so this guy would definitely not lie to him. In order to find more spirit veins as soon as possible, he had to take a gamble. Munch, munch. The guardian beast opened its mouth and swallowed without hesitation. Jun Changshao watched with pain in his flesh, teeth, and nerve endings. However, another problem had appeared. Although the guardian beast ate spirit stones quickly, it could only eat 10,000 a day. If it continued to eat, it would not absorb any energy. Fuck. Jun Changshao picked it up and roared, why didn't you say so earlier? Husband. Rose of Flowers said, since it can only eat 10,000 a day, why don't you bring it to the spacetime secret realm? Jun Changshao said happily, that's right. Chapter 17:10. That's strange. Why is it a vein that has been dug out? At the Imperial Celestial Realm's stronghold, the martial artists who had been to the spirit vein were still discussing, their faces full of doubts. In the main hall, Elder Lin and the other top experts were also discussing. In my opinion, a man with a buzz cut guessed, it's very likely that the man and woman who broke into the stronghold dug it out. Elder Lin shook his head and said, no one can enter the mine when the flowing light phenomenon is present. Besides, even if they have a way to enter, how can such a large vein be dug out in a day or two? Makes sense. Everyone agreed. In fact, Jun Changshao could enter the mine because of the guardian spirit beast. Humans could not enter, but it could. As for digging, there were naturally professional mining machines. By the way, Elder Lin said, have you confirmed the identity of that man and woman? Yes. A powerhouse said, these two are not martial artists of the Imperial Celestial Realm. They sneaked in from outside, fought with Gong Baiyu and the others, and then forced their way into the independent plane. No wonder. Elder Lin said in relief, I've never seen them before. That woman is from the Spirit Mastery race. Oh? Elder Lin was surprised. A powerhouse analyzed, in that case, they should be using the entrance of the Imperial Celestial Realm to return to the Spirit Mastery Realm. He guessed right. Sigh. Elder Lin sighed and said, I was going to wait for them to walk into the trap, but it seems that's impossible. To go to and from the Imperial Celestial Realm, one had to pass through the stronghold. Since that guy broke in, he would definitely go back, so they planned to wait for him. But now, since that woman was from the Spirit Mastery race, she had probably returned through another vortex. Boom! Suddenly, a deafening sound of collision came from outside, and it shook the hall to the point it creaked. What's going on? Elder Lin and the others' faces changed. Elder Lin. At this moment, a hurried shout came from outside, someone broke in. Boom! Before the voice fell, another loud collision sound came. The main hall and the ground shook as if it would collapse at any time. Whoosh! Whoosh! Elder Lin and the others flew out quickly. However, just as they stabilized their bodies, the defensive barrier above the stronghold instantly shattered into nothingness. Swish! A stream of light shot over and merged into the pitch-black vortex before Elder Lin and the others had a chance to react. Then, a voice sounded, sorry to disturb you. Everyone was dumbfounded. It's that guy. Elder Lin barely managed to keep up with the speed of the car. When he saw the man and woman who were still discussing just now, he almost vomited blood on the spot. It was just a moment ago that he was still wondering whether they would return to the stronghold after heading to the soul-tampering realm, but in the end, he had been slapped in the face. Damn it! You think this is your home? You come and go as you please. In the dark vortex of the Imperial Celestial Realm, Jun Changshao rushed out of the battlefield with rows of flowers in his arms. He easily bypassed the fortress and flew all the way to the sky. He needed to return to the Eternal Ship as he did not have the space-time secret realm with him. Hold on tight. Jun Changshao said, I'm going to speed up. If it was difficult to get in, it would definitely be difficult to get out. Rows of flowers reached out and hugged him. Her face was pressed against his chest, and she could clearly feel his heart beating faster. Boom! At this time, Jun Changshao had already collided with the plane barrier. The flickering light was like a burning flame, and the warriors in the entire plane could clearly see it. That guy, Gong Baiyu said, is he leaving? He was a little disappointed. After all, it was not easy to meet a powerful sword cultivator. Whoosh! After the friction and collision, Jun Changshao passed through the space barrier and disappeared from the sight of the warriors in the Imperial Celestial Realm. The ripples in the sky also began to return to normal. After the news reached the stronghold of the independent battlefield, Elder Lin said helplessly, the Imperial Celestial Realm is completely disgraced. I thought they were going to the Soul Mastery Realm. Now it seems that they are just passing by and taking a stroll around the independent battlefield. That guy who claimed to be from the Tang of the East could intimidate Hong Tianyo and the others. His strength is not to be underestimated. Since he has left, let him go. He said this as if he could stop Jun Changshao. On the Eternal Ship, Jun Changshao was back. The first thing he did was to enter the space-time secret realm and take out a large number of spiritual stones. Eat as much as you can. Yes, master. The little guy did not hold back and began to eat crazily using the time acceleration. According to its estimation, 100,000 first-grade spiritual stones could increase its strength. With the space-time secret realm's acceleration, it would not take long for it to finish eating. Keep eating. Jun Changshao continued to take out spiritual stones. He planned to cultivate the guardian spiritual beast at all costs just to earn more resources. Since it was a gamble. Then he would gamble big. Gulp, gulp. In the space-time secret realm, the guardian spiritual beast ate one spiritual stone at a time and was very happy. However, only 2 or 3 days had passed in the outside world, and its physique and perception had significantly improved. Not enough. Keep eating. Jun Changshao would often come in and throw out even more spirit stones before he left. The disciples of the sect of all times occasionally came in to cultivate. Seeing the caterpillar-like little guy opening its mouth several times bigger than its body to eat resources, they were so envious that they almost cried. 10 days later. Because of the time limit, the guardian spiritual beast was forcibly sent out. The effect of the high-grade space-time secret realm is a 100-fold acceleration. This guy has experienced 1,000 days inside. It eats 10,000 spiritual stones a day. 1,000 days is. Jun Changshao clutched his chest and said with heartache, "My 100 million spiritual stones." Master. The guardian spiritual beast said, "Do you still want to eat?" Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Eat. Continue. He was not in a hurry to return to the independent battlefield. He planned to wait for the cooldown to reset and continue to feed the guardian spiritual beast. 1 month. 2 months, as long as the cooldown of the space-time secret realm was over, the guardian spiritual beast would go in to eat. It ate for a whole year and consumed 100 million spiritual stones. 100 years of consumption and finished in a year. How terrifying. Fuck. Jun Changshao roared, "Why haven't you changed?" After eating so many first-grade spiritual stones, the guardian spiritual beast still looked like a caterpillar. This made him feel like he had been cheated. Master. The little guy said, "If I revert to my original form, this ship won't be able to accommodate me." Oh? Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. He then adjusted his collar and said, "Let's go to the independent battlefield." Wait a minute. After the cabin door opened, he stopped and shouted, "Ren Shan, follow me." Yes. Ren Shan ran over. All right. The system said, "The independent battlefield is finished." One could search for spiritual veins, and the other had the koi attribute. This was definitely a golden pair. They definitely would not give the mine and the martial artists of the 2 realms any chance of survival. Let's go. Jun Changshao picked up the rose of flowers and flew towards the imperial celestial world. As for Ren Shan, he was enveloped by his own attribute and hung behind like a kite. Because the speed of the car was too fast and the fluctuations were too big, he had already begun to roll his eyes and foam at the mouth. Zone. Patriarch. Slow down, pft. Independent battlefield. Because there were no mines in this year, the martial artists of the 2 realms were resting and developing peacefully. Especially on the side of the imperial celestial world. They gradually forgot about Jun Changshao's forceful entry and exit. Boom! In the night, a loud explosion came from the quiet stronghold. Elder Lin and the others were awakened and flew out in their pajamas. When they saw Jun Changshao carrying the rose of flowers and attacking the defensive barrier, they all turned into roaring emperors. Why is he here again? His own home. Of course, he could come and go as he pleased. Chapter 1711. The experts of the Imperial Celestial World had just forgotten about the embarrassing incident a year ago. Who would have thought that Jun Changshao would come again? He really treated this place as his home. Fine. He could take charge. They were powerless to stop him and could only accept it. But, big brother, why are you always hugging a woman? Needless to say, Gosheng had been hugging the rose of flowers for several times. If they didn't know him well, they might have thought that he was deliberately taking advantage of her. "Sorry to disturb you." After breaking the formation and flying out of the stronghold, Jun Changxiao's voice came. In fact, he was also helpless. If the Imperial Celestial World cooperated and didn't set up all kinds of barriers in the stronghold, why would he bother to break in? "Disturb your ass." Elder Lin, who was rather well-mannered, couldn't help but curse. Breaking into the stronghold consecutively was simply slapping his own face again and again, trampling on the face of the Imperial Celestial World. Although he was angry, there was nothing he could do. "What are you waiting for?" Elder Lin turned around and shouted, "Set up the formation again." "Elder Lin, what should we do if that kid breaks in again?" an expert said with an ugly expression. Repairing the stronghold's formation didn't cost resources, but it would definitely take manpower and time. Who could bear to go back and forth? Elder Lin thought for a while and said, "Then don't set it up first." The stronghold's formation system was used to guard against the attacks of the Spirit Mastery race. Now, because of Jun Changxiao, they had to give up on it. It was really a sin. Roar! At this moment, a deafening roar was heard. Because the stronghold didn't have a defensive barrier, Elder Lin and the others heard it clearly. What's going on? A demon beast appeared. Let's go and take a look. The experts of the Imperial Celestial World quickly flew out of the stronghold. When they came to the area where the sound came from, they were all stunned in midair, and their eyes gradually widened. In their field of vision, there was a huge demon beast standing in the open space. Because its body was in sections, it looked like a large caterpillar. Other than its body, there was only one mouth on its face. Those who liked it would find it cute, and those who didn't would find it ugly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Heaven and earth attributes visible to the naked eye gathered in front of the big guy, as if it was breathing clouds and exhaling. Elder Lin was experienced and knowledgeable. He exclaimed, "Guardian Spirit Beast." Oh my God! Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. There were not many monster beasts in the independent battlefield. Most of the monster beasts that came from the two realms were almost completely slaughtered. The Guardian Spirit Beast was one of the breeds. Because it was timid by nature and liked to burrow underground, it was not taken seriously by the martial artists and was able to survive. Now, this one had grown too big. Roar! The 1,000-foot-tall Guardian Spirit Beast roared out once more. Sound waves visible to the naked eye rippled outwards. Although it wouldn't cause any harm to the martial artist, it still interfered with the nature of the world around it, forcing them to surge forth like billowing clouds. More attributes condensed, creating a huge scene. Elder Lin and the others were dumbfounded. They only knew about Guardian Spirit Beasts and their daily habits. Now that they had encountered such a big one, they had no idea how to understand it. Wait a minute. Elder Lin was stunned. Only then did he shift his gaze to the left side of the Guardian Spirit Beast, to Jun Changxiao, who was looking up at him. It's him. Hi. Realizing that someone was looking at him, Goxing turned around with a harmless smile on his face. Elder Lin came back to his senses and angrily rushed to his sea of consciousness, almost rushing out of his Baihui acupoint. Master. At this moment, the Guardian Spirit Beast lowered its head and said, "This is my original body. Are you still satisfied?" Elder Lin, who was thinking about how to capture this person, froze when he heard this. Master? This big guy was his contract beast? It was not uncommon for a martial artist to sign a contract with a monster beast and live and die together in the Imperial Celestial World. However, signing a contract with a timid Guardian Spirit Beast. Was his brain kicked by a donkey? It was undeniable that after eating so many spirit stones, the Guardian Spirit Beast's original body was very big and very visually shocking. However, this kind of monster beast actually had no combat power. Even the roar just now gave people the feeling that it was just a piece of trash. Crazy. Elder Lin thought to himself, that kid must be crazy. There were countless monster beasts in the world, but he had to sign a contract with a cowardly guardian spirit beast. This was really sick. Whether you are satisfied or not depends on whether you can find the spirit vein. Jun Changshao said. Master. The guardian spirit beast said seriously, I just mobilized the heaven and earth attribute and integrated it into the depths of the ground. It is enough to spread over a range of 10,000 miles. As long as there is a spirit vein, I will definitely, at this point, it said happily, found it. So fast? Jun Changshao was stunned. Master, please follow me. As the guardian spirit beast spoke, it twisted its body and drilled into the ground. Go! Jun Changshao picked up rows of flowers and used the power of the true spirit to envelop Ren Shan, who was vomiting. Without hesitation, he jumped into the tunnel that had just been dug. Chase! Elder Lin hurriedly rushed over. However, just as he reached the area where Jun Changshao disappeared, the hole had already healed itself. Damn it! That guy ran away again. Elder Lin was enraged. Jun Changshao and the guardian spirit beast were talking through telepathy, so he and the experts of the Imperial Celestial World did not know that he was not running away, but looking for the spirit vein. Ha ha ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Wild laughter could be heard coming from a certain underground mine. The camera panned down. Jun Changshao had one hand on the wall and the other on his stomach. His whole face was distorted with laughter. Why was he laughing? Because the area he was in was an undiscovered spirit vein. The soil was inlaid with bright spirit stones. Even if he just smelled it with his nose, he would feel. Oh my god, it was so fragrant. Wah! Ren Shan vomited. It was not easy to get a camera, and it was finally useful. But after coming down from Eternal, he was hung like a kite. That experience was like riding a roller coaster. Collect. Collect all of them. After calming down, Jun Changshao took out the mining machine. Caw caw caw. One by one, mechanical miners climbed out of the big box and skillfully dug out the spirit stones. They then transported them back safely. The spirit vein was not big. It was dug clean in half an hour. It was a pity. There were only spirit stones, nothing else. Jun Changshao put the mining machine into the space ring and smiled. I got my money back. This vein was much smaller than the previous one, but there were still nearly 200 million ores stored in it. I made the right bet. Master. At this time, the shrunken guardian spirit beast said, I feel the aura of the spirit vein again. Let's go. Jun Changshao regarded money as dirt and spirit stones as treasures. So, since he could easily find the spirit vein, he would naturally dig it without restraint. Pht! Pht! Deep underground, the guardian spirit beast was like a drill, digging frantically in the direction of the aura. Jun Changshao followed closely behind with a twisted smile on his face. Above. The martial artists of the two worlds were completely unaware. They were either cultivating as usual or quietly waiting for the natural phenomenon. Sigh. It would probably be difficult to see a stream of light shooting into the sky in the future. Half a month later. Jun Changshao stood in the newly dug hole and said happily, this spirit vein is really not small, it actually contains so many spirit stones. Rows of Flowers recorded the number of spirit stones in her book. How many are there? Including the ones just mined, it's just over 100 billion. Jun Changshao was in a hurry to calculate, so Rows of Flowers was responsible for the statistics. The system said, it's already in the hundreds of billions, this is crazy. Only so little? Jun Changshao was a little dissatisfied. Rows of Flowers said, Husband, are you planning to dig out all the spirit veins in the independent plane? Of course. Jun Changshao straightened his back and said, this kind of public plane does not belong to the Imperial Heaven Realm nor the Imperial Soul Realm. I have the ability to mine it, so naturally I will take it all away. Patriarch. Suddenly, Ren Shan's voice came from the depths of the mine. There's a big stone door here. Chapter 17:12. In the past half a month, Ren Shan had been following the patriarch to mine the spirit vein. Unfortunately, as the official koi of the sect of all times, because of the existence of the guardian spirit beast, he did not do anything. In fact, Jun Changshao brought him along as an extra layer of insurance. Now that the contract beast could be solved, there was naturally no need for him. However, a koi was a koi. The spirit vein was dug clean, and in the end, a stone door was found. Did you pee again? Jun Changshao vaguely remembered that he had discovered a large mineral vein near the green grassland because he had urinated and defecated everywhere. No. Ren Shan's expression was very serious. In fact, he did plan to pee. But when he came here and was about to take off his pants, the layer of mud fell off by itself. He was so shocked that he held back his pee. The mud fell off because of the mining of the spirit vein, but coincidentally, Ren Shan was right next to it. This was really a koi, this was really invincible. Jun Changshao patted him and said, "The world is so big, go out and walk, don't stay in the sect all day." With such heaven-defying luck, squatting in the sect was a waste of talent. The camera turned to the big stone door because of the mud falling off. The overall color was dark, which meant that it had been buried for a long time. There were also carvings on the surface and it looked very ordinary. Jun Changshao did not think it was ordinary. In his opinion, since it was hidden in an independent battlefield, it might be a cave left behind by an expert. Creak. He put his hand on the stone door, and then, it opened. So simple. Jun Changshao walked in, but he always maintained absolute vigilance. After all, who knew if there were any traps? Ga. Just as he walked in, Jun Changshao stopped, and his expression stiffened. In his field of vision, a huge spirit stone appeared, with thin threads wrapped around the surface, giving the impression of a spider's nest. The system said, "This is the spirit stone ancestor, several generations older than the spirit stone mother." Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Jun Changshao immediately covered his face and laughed. A spirit stone mother could nurture countless descendants, then an even higher spirit stone ancestor, wouldn't that mean? I'm rich, I'm rich. Patriarch? Are you okay? Ren Shan waved his hand in front of his eyes. Jun Changshao, who was laughing wildly, suddenly came back to his senses. He realized that he was still standing in front of the stone door. Everything that had happened just now was just his imagination. The system could read his thoughts and mocked, "Do you think you're a koi? Any random entry is a fortuitous opportunity. And you call yourself the ancestor of spirit stones? Bah!" After being ridiculed by the system, Jun Changshao's expression was very interesting. However, he quickly calmed down and said, "Step back. I will open this door." Ren Shan hastily dodged. Who? Jun Changshao took a deep breath and channeled his strength into his fist. Clearly, he intended to force his way out. Creak. At this moment, the large stone door opened. Jun Changshao was stunned. He subconsciously pinched his face and felt the pain. After confirming that it wasn't an illusion or a dream, he asked in confusion, "Why did it open by itself? The stone door looks ordinary, but it should be made of extraordinary materials. Perhaps it has gained sentience over the years, and in order to avoid being destroyed by the host, it decisively chose to admit defeat." The system analyzed. Jun Changshao said, "The stone has sentience?" Nonsense. Who? Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew in from inside. Jun Changshao showed the maturity that a patriarch should have. He immediately formed a defensive enchantment in front of him to block the possible poisonous aura. Rows of flowers and Ren Shan were also protected. Unfortunately, the wind that blew was a little old, but there was no danger. "Let's go." Jun Changshao said, "Go in." From the beginning to the end, he didn't remove the enchantment. It could be seen that he was very strong, but he was overly cautious. Step. Jun Changshao stepped in with one foot. The surroundings flickered quickly, illuminating everything. This was a stone room of a decent size. Not only was there no ancestor of spirit stones, but there was also no side door or side room. It was like a deserted house. No way. Jun Changshao collapsed and said, "There's nothing." Rows of flowers said, "Maybe there's a secret room hidden in it." That's right. Jun Changshao became spirited and said, "Look carefully, there may be a big discovery." After that, he began to stroll in the stone room. Buzz! When he walked to the central area, a strange pattern suddenly appeared on the floor under his feet. The whole space began to distort and fold, and he was instantly in the vast universe. Illusion? Jun Changshao was very calm. He had experienced similar situations before, so he naturally wouldn't make a fuss. Ha! At this time, Jun Changshao found that there was only one plane shining in the universe where he was. There were no stars or meteorites around. It was clean as if someone had swept it with a broom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, there was the sound of wind breaking in his ears. Jun Changshao subconsciously looked back and saw that in the distance, the starry sky was shrouded in darkness. Suddenly, streams of light flew out, emitting an extremely gloomy aura. These streams of light flew past him and even passed through his body. It could be seen that he was indeed in an illusion. Whoosh! Whoosh! A large number of streams of light flew out and then hovered near the bright plane, surrounding it. When the light dissipated, Jun Changshao's eyes widened because it turned out to be thousands of huge battleships. They were all of the same color, pitch black, and had all kinds of eerie and strange patterns on the surface. Damn! So many! Jun Changshao, who had 11 battleships, already felt that he was very awesome. However, compared to this black mass of at least 10,000 battleships, he was just like a child. They want to invade? Just as Gulu was muttering to himself, a stream of light flew out of the resplendent dimension and stood in front of the many battleships. It was a middle-aged man in battle armor, with an imposing appearance and extraordinary might. This person. Super strong. Jun Changshao only took a glance and couldn't help but be in awe. In the upper realm, Gu Tianqing had never given him such a feeling when he slashed the Star Spirit Realm battleships. Gu Xianyuan. A gloomy voice came from the main battleship. Do you really plan to fight against the Sky Demonic Emperor who rules the universe with your own strength? This is my home. The middle-aged man raised his hand, took out a sharp sword with full special effects, and said, I won't allow you to humiliate me. Humph, the gloomy voice sounded again. It's nothing more than a first-class plane. For it, you don't hesitate to offend the Sky Demonic Emperor and destroy your tens of thousands of years of cultivation. Is it worth it? You devils who invade and occupy other people's worlds for a living naturally don't understand the importance of home to humans. Gu Xianyuan said. He he he. Strange laughter came. Jun Changshao also liked to laugh like this, but compared to the other party, whether it was the tone or the atmosphere, he was absolutely like a dog. You humans have too many feelings. That's why you're restrained everywhere and can't pry into the higher mysteries of heaven. You don't even have the qualifications to touch the path of immortality. Gu Xianyuan said, it's because we have feelings that we're called humans. But you cold-blooded and heartless people are only fit to be devils even if you step into the path of immortality. Chapter 1713. Jun Changshao, who had entered the illusion, was like a bystander, watching the man named Gu Xianyuan face off against tens of thousands of battleships. Seriously. He admired him. These invading battleships were very strong from the strange aura they exuded. A person facing them fearlessly, just this courage alone was worthy of praise. However, who was the Sky Devil Emperor? What was the road to immortality that he was talking about? A higher level than the divine secret realm? Or was it just a path? In this short conversation, Jun Changshao had a lot of questions. One thing he was sure of was that this should have happened in the past. Someone had deliberately left an illusion in the stone room so that people could witness the history that had happened. Humph. A gloomy voice came from the main battleship again, interrupting Go Xing's thoughts. As long as you are strong, it doesn't matter if you are human or demon. Gu Xianyuan said, your so-called strength is nothing more than endless slaughter and plunder. How many planes have been destroyed, how many creatures have turned into ghosts? I firmly believe that sooner or later, a powerhouse of our human race will rise against the tide and eradicate all of you evildoers who bring calamity to the world. We will return peace to the universe and even change the structure of the upper universe and usher in a new era. Our human race. Standing in the vast universe, we will be undefeated and indestructible. The last sentence was sonorous and powerful. Lord Changshao was deeply affected and shaken by this. Whether it was in his previous life or this life, he was a human. There was no doubt about this, so when he heard Gu Xuanyuan's words, his heart could not calm down for a long time. Humph. Humans just like to talk fast. Today, I will let you understand that being undefeated and indestructible requires strength, otherwise everything is empty talk. Generals, listen to my order. Destroy the Shenyuan realm. Yes. In an instant, the bottom cabins of tens of thousands of battleships opened, and countless warriors with strange auras flew out. There were so many of them that they were like bats flying out of a cave. The scene was terrifying. What caught Jun Changxiao's attention the most were the few extremely ugly leaders in front of him. They were wearing excellent equipment and were clearly not human. One look and one could tell that they were up to no good. They are all stronger than the host, the system said. Not only was he strong, but he was also much stronger. If this was not an illusion but real, Jun Changxiao would have been scared away by the terrifying aura. As expected, the upper universe is filled with experts. Jun Changxiao did not feel inferior. Instead, his eyes were shining. Putting aside the development of the sect, he was also a person who wanted to be strong. Naturally, he wanted to pursue a higher realm and control more power. Intruders. Right at this moment, Gu Shenyuan drew his sword and said with a cold and fierce gaze, "Die." When the last word was spoken, terrifying sword energy swept through the universe and tore the void apart. The scene was unprecedentedly shocking. Puchi! Puchi! Wherever the sword light passed, blood and flesh splattered. That's terrifying. Jun Changxiao was dumbfounded. With so many people charging at him, not only was this middle-aged man not afraid, he even burst forth with an even stronger sword intent. Just what level had he reached? Especially that sword. It looked even stronger than the ultimate immortal sword. Ever since he had the system store, Jun Changxiao had always been far ahead in terms of equipment. He had even circled the earth several times. Many battles that he could win were either because of magical modifications or because of unstoppable attacks. Today, he was inferior to him. There was no other way. The other party's level was too high. It was understandable that his equipment was strong. Boom! Boom! The sword energy tore through the enemy group and flew up, directly cutting the battleships in half and triggering a series of explosions. Oh my god! Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. Gu Tianqing's axe was already powerful enough. This man's sword directly swept away a bunch of them. The scene was hard to describe. Especially, the level of these pitch-black battleships was obviously higher than the Star Spirit world. Kill! Kill! Deafening roars echoed in the universe. All kinds of lights flickered and illuminated the dark starry sky. Jun Changxiao watched in shock. A battle of this level had already exceeded his imagination. After an unknown amount of time, the battle finally ended. The battleships gathered outside the plane turned into nothingness. Corpses floated in the starry sky. Blood gathered together as if turning into a sea of blood. Jun Changshao was silent. In his field of vision, the middle-aged man was covered in blood. His hair was disheveled and he stood with a sword in his hand. Although his face was pale, the will of a powerhouse couldn't be concealed. I'll only say the word strong once. Pft. Gu Xianyuan spat out blood. Although he destroyed all the tens of thousands of battleships, he was inevitably seriously injured. Man! 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 Jun Changshao gave him a thumbs up and gave him the most respectful look. Swish! At this moment, the scene in front of him changed. Gosheng left the universe illusion and was in the wild. There were mountains, trees, and water around him. The scenery was pleasant. Plop! The sound of someone falling could be heard. Jun Changshao looked and found that Gu Xianyuan, who was fighting just now, had fallen on the grass. There were still bloodstains on his body, and his face was still very pale. He felt like he was going to die at any time. Master, a young child shouted with tears in her eyes. Gu Xianyuan raised his hand with difficulty and put it on her head. He smiled and said, "Are they all gone?" "Yes." The child said, "They're all gone. You should go too." "Master, I won't leave you. This sword that was tempered by the essence of heaven and earth, the sun and the moon has accompanied me for 10,000 years. Today, I will pass it to you. Remember, this sword can only be used by the destined person. When you grow up, don't draw the sword easily, or you will suffer a backlash." Gu Xianyuan threw the sword over and waved his sleeve to send the child into the void. Wah! Another mouthful of blood spurted out. Among those invaders, there was no lack of powerful strength. It was already not easy for him to survive until now. My Shenyuan realm is a first-class plane in the upper universe. The heaven and earth attribute is rare in the world. Now that all the creatures have been safely transferred, how can we leave this place to the demonic emperor? Gu Xianyuan tried to get up, put his hands together, and muttered. Gradually, his body began to disintegrate, turning into fireflies and drifting with the wind. Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! Wherever the fluorescent light passed, the surrounding heaven and earth attributes were absorbed. The trees and flowers lost their vitality and constantly flowed into the ground. Soon, the entire plain turned into a wasteland. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened, because the wasteland he saw at this moment was exactly the same as the independent battlefield. He understood. The so-called independent battlefield was actually the Shenyuan realm. I have used 30,000 years of cultivation to seal the heaven and earth attributes. If the destined person finds the eye of the formation and inherits the plane's origin, he will be the master of the Shenyuan realm. Gu Xuanyuan's voice floated in the wasteland, but the more he spoke, the weaker he became, indicating that his time was up. Swish! At this point, the illusion completely disappeared. Jun Changshao suddenly turned around and found that he was still standing in the stone room. A few steps in front of him, there were complicated lines flashing on the ground. In the center of the room, there was a crystal floating with flowing light, emitting a rich heaven and earth attribute. This is, the system exclaimed, the plane's origin. Chapter 1714. Jun Changshao squatted on the ground, holding his head with both hands. Calm down. Don't get excited. He thought so in his heart, but his mouth gradually widened, and an extremely exaggerated smile appeared. He brought Ren Shan to the independent battlefield in the hope of forming a golden partner with the guardian spirit beast, so that it would be more convenient to excavate the spirit veins. In fact, his wish came true. In half a month, the first-level spirit stones alone had exceeded 100 billion. If the system had not been upgraded to the upper realm version, the bound space ring's capacity would have been infinitely expanded, and a normal ring would not be able to hold it. Very cool. Super cool. What Jun Changshao did not expect was that just after the ore vein was excavated, Ren Shan accidentally found a big stone door. At first, he imagined that there were materials higher than the spirit stones inside, but he was severely beaten by the system. Now, there were indeed no resources higher than the spirit stones, but there was a plane's origin waiting for him to inherit. Happiness came too quickly, and it caught him off guard. If not for the presence of rows of flowers, Jun Changshao would have run to Ren Shan and kissed him hard to express his joy and gratitude. Bringing him to the battlefield was more valuable than bringing the guardian spirit beast. The system entered the play dead mode, because it had previously said, "Do you think you are a koi? Just going in is an opportunity." This. Not only was it an opportunity, but it was also a great opportunity. In half a month, although Jun Changshao had dug a lot of spirit veins with the help of the guardian spirit beast, it was definitely a time-consuming and laborious work to dig all of them. Now, as long as it inherited the plane's origin, it would be the master of the plane. Dig a fart, dig a hair. As long as its mind moved, it would all come over. Thinking of this, Jun Changshao got up, calmed down his excited mood, and like the silly son of a landlord, he opened his mouth and said, "Thank you." Fortunately, the system did not have a physical body, or else its face would be swollen to planet Vegeta. Husband, Rose of Flowers looked at the crystal surrounded by flowing light and said, "Is this thing the plane's origin?" Although she had never seen it, she had heard of it. What's more, the heaven and earth attributes that spread out from the crystal were hundreds of times stronger than the outside world. Origin. The heart of the plane, the source of attributes. Whether it was the spirit veins or the spirit mother, they were all born from this thing. Isn't it the ancestor? I'm not wrong. The system became even more silent. Not bad. Jun Chang smiled and said, "This is the plane's origin. I didn't expect to find it so easily. It's a little hard to believe." Rose of Flowers sighed. "Patriarch, Madam." Ren Shan rubbed his hands and grinned, "This is all thanks to this disciple. Should I be given a special class merit?" Jun Changshao usually did not put on the airs of a patriarch in the sect. He would even joke with the disciples occasionally, so he did not have any scruples when the occasion was not serious. To put it bluntly, this was the atmosphere of a happy family. "Here." Jun Changshao said, "Of course." He had helped him find a first-class plane that contained endless spirit veins. Not only would he be rewarded with special class merits, but he would also have to note that it was an SSS grade. Hee hee. Ren Shan grinned. "You guys get out of the way." Jun Changshao said, "I'm here to inherit the plane source." Rose of Flowers said, "The source is different from the attributes of heaven and earth. There may be danger in inheriting it. Husband, you have to think carefully." The crystal in front of him was not bad, but it was not easy to get it. "I've thought about it." Jun Changshao said with a firm gaze, "This thing must be inherited." Previously in the illusion, Gu Xianyuan had said that the fated person could inherit the plane source. Since he was here, he must be the fated person. Swoosh! He released his spiritual senses and integrated them into the crystal. Boom! Suddenly, Jun Changshao's sea of consciousness seemed to explode. He took more than 10 steps back before he could stabilize his body. A look of pain appeared on his face. Ha ha ha. The system laughed and said, "Not fated." Because he had been slapped in the face before, he finally seized the opportunity to laugh at him. Damn it! Jun Changshao said gloomily, "I've already come in. How can I not be fated?" Wait! Ren Shan was the one who discovered the large stone door. Perhaps it was fate. Shan. Jun Changshao said kindly, "Use your spiritual senses to communicate with this crystal." If they were fated, he had no objections to his disciple inheriting it. After all, he should keep the goodies within the family. Yes. Ren Shan began to release his spiritual senses. However, as soon as he touched the crystal, there was a bang, and his entire body was directly bounced out and slammed into the wall. Shan! Jun Changshao exclaimed. Ren Shan stood up from the ground in a sorry state and said, "Patriarch. I'm fine." Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief. Plop. Suddenly, Ren Shan's eyelids rolled up and he collapsed to the ground like mud. He had completely fainted. Jun Changshao was speechless. Rose of Flowers was speechless. The crystal had a protective mechanism. Anyone who touched it with spiritual senses would suffer a backlash. Jun Changshao was strong, so he could only feel pain. Ren Shan, on the other hand, was not strong enough, so he fainted immediately. Fortunately, it was not a big problem to just faint. What should I do? After confirming that there was nothing wrong with his disciple, Jun Changshao held his chin and pondered. Aya. The system said, someone was thinking too much just now. Now, he can only look but not touch. I'm afraid he will be anxious to death. Get lost. Jun Changshao scolded. Got it. It can be stored in the space ring. I can't even touch it with my spiritual senses. How are you going to store it? Jun Changshao was silent. The system said, this plane origin is left by Gu Shenyuan to the fated person. Since the host can't do it, we can only wait for someone else to inherit it. I can't accept this. Jun Changshao roared in his heart. At this moment, Rose of Flowers picked up a small branch from somewhere above and walked toward the crystal, saying, "Let me try." Jun Changshao said in shock, "Don't mess around, Pa." The small branch reached over and touched the flowing light. It was as if a bubble had been punctured, revealing the original appearance of the crystal. This, Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Rose of Flowers said, "Without the flowing light, husband should be able to inherit it, right?" "Let me try." Jun Changshao released his spiritual senses again and carefully approached it. As expected, there was no obstruction. Jun Changshao immediately controlled his spiritual senses to pounce over. Swoosh! After touching the plane origin, his soul was instantly brought into a space that was even more illusory than an illusion. Fated person. You're finally here. Before Go Sheng could come back to his senses, a familiar voice sounded in his ears. It's him. Gu Shenyuan. Sure enough, when Jun Changshao turned around, he saw the mighty man who destroyed tens of thousands of battleships and killed hundreds of thousands of enemies in the void in front of him. He blurted out, "Senior, you're still alive. This is formed by a trace of my remnant consciousness." I see. Jun Changshao was enlightened. Gu Shenyuan said, "You can enter the stone chamber and trigger the playback array I left behind, which proves that you're the fated person. You can take the Shenyuan realm's origin." "Thank you, Senior." Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said. However, Gu Shenyuan said with a solemn gaze, "If you inherit the plane origin, you have to take on a responsibility and destroy the celestial demonic emperor." The celestial demonic emperor lives by killing and plundering. Thousands of planes and living beings have been persecuted. Since you're a human and have inherited the Shenyuan realm, you should eliminate evil for the common people. I'm afraid I can't beat him. Jun Changshao also wanted to eliminate evil for the common people, but from what he saw in the illusion, any martial artist with a little status could kill him. It's fine. Gu Shenyuan said, "If you can't beat him, you can become stronger." The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Gu Shenyuan continued, "The Shenyuan realm is a first-class plane with extremely rich heaven and earth attributes. Before I disintegrate, I condensed it into a grain of sand. You can carry it with you or use it as a cultivation ground. Sooner or later, you will be strong enough to fight against the celestial demonic emperor." A grain of sand? He didn't feel it at all. You don't agree? I agree. He had to get the plane origin, so since he had to take on the responsibility, then so be it. Anyway, he had done many things to save the world, so he was familiar with it. Swish! Suddenly, a light flickered in front of him, and a blood-stained armor appeared out of thin air. This is the armor that has accompanied me for tens of thousands of years. It was forged with the essence of heaven and earth, sun and moon. Its quality is extraordinary. Today, I'll give it to you to protect yourself, Gu Shenyuan said. Jun Changshao said weakly, Senior, why didn't you leave that sword here too? I originally planned to give it to my disciple along with the armor, but my lifespan was almost up and I was in a hurry to send her out, so. Gu Shenyuan said, I forgot. Plop. Jun Changshao fell to the ground. It seemed that the armor wasn't deliberately left behind. Remember. Gu Shenyuan said with a solemn expression, this armor is stained with the blood of the celestial demonic and has been corroded for tens of thousands of years. Unless it's a matter of life and death, you must not force yourself to wear it. Otherwise, you will lose your mind and your soul will be destroyed. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. Jun Changshao gently held up the blood-stained armor and said solemnly, our human race, standing in the vast universe, must be indestructible. Good. Very good. Gu Shenyuan laughed loudly, and his remnant thoughts gradually faded. Tens of thousands of years ago, the top expert who killed the elite fleet of the celestial demonic emperor by himself had completely turned into ashes today. As for whether the fated person he had been waiting for could fulfill his last wish, how would he know? Senior. Jun Changshao lowered his head, looked at the armor, and said, I have inherited the plain origin today. I have also inherited your will today. Playing was playing, messing around was messing around. Don't take Brother Go's seriousness as a joke. Because, just as Gu Shenyuan said, our human race, standing in the vast universe, must be indestructible. Chapter 17-15. Jun Changshao had told countless lies and done indecent things in his life, but this time, he was unusually serious because he was also a human. That was all. Celestial Demon Emperor. Just you wait. Ah! Suddenly, Jun Changshao screamed miserably. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely gloomy attribute suddenly erupted from his body and was madly attacking his knowledge sea. Although Xiaohua and Little Xia immediately responded, the attribute was so fierce that it instantly broke through their layers of defense. The whole process happened in a short time, but the pain it brought was very intense. Plop! Jun Changshao half knelt on the ground, his face abnormally ferocious. Quick! The system hurriedly said, throw away the armor. It turned out that the attribute that suddenly erupted like a virus came from the armor that was stained with celestial demon blood. Gu Shenyuan said that unless it was a matter of life and death, he should not wear it, but he forgot to remind him not to have any physical contact with it. It was rare for Brother Go to be serious, but he had to pick up the armor. This was really the most fatal way to seek death. The terrifying gloomy attribute was like a hot knife through butter. Even if Xiaohua and Little Xia resisted with all their might, it was useless. Ah! A scream resounded in the stone room. When other protagonists encountered a little setback, the readers would think that the protagonists were abusing the protagonists. My readers were already overjoyed at this point, even beating drums and setting off firecrackers to celebrate. Husband, what's wrong? Seeing Jun Changshao's painful expression, Rose of Flowers' eyes were filled with worry. Quick, leave, Jun Changshao spoke with difficulty, his eyes gradually turning red. His symptoms were very similar to Yi Xingqian's. The armor was stained with celestial demon blood and had been eroded by it for tens of thousands of years, so it was very toxic. So, whether he lost his mind or did something crazy, it was understandable. Could it be that this was the only way to get rid of his single life? Sigh. It was hopeless. Let's go. Rose of Flowers made a prompt decision. At this moment, she was very assertive. If it were anyone else, they would have been at a loss and would have been at a loss. Patriarch, Ren Shan originally planned to stay, but he listened to his wife and quickly turned to leave. Inside the stone room, Jun Changshao was the only one left. What would he do if the fire burned him? Ah! The blood-curdling screams rose and fell one after another, as if they were being played in high pitch. Jun Changxiao's facial muscles gradually hardened as his attributes crazily pounded his mind. Clearly, he had entered the state of activating his stone statue race bloodline. Of course. This was not something that Go Sheng had initiated. Instead, it was the eerie attribute released by the heavenly demon blood that resonated with his bloodline. Thus, it was temporarily activated when he gradually lost his mind. To be exact, it was more like a form of self-protection. Hoo-hoo. After the gargoyle race's bloodline was activated, the energy gathered in the sea of consciousness, madly resisting the dark attribute that was trying to take control of the situation. Both sides moved their troops and fought to their heart's content. Ah! Ouch! Jun Changxiao's pain intensified as the two attributes fought against each other. The pitch of his screams changed from high notes to low notes, and from low notes to coloratura. The change in tempo and the strength of his singing made people gasp in amazement. Don't say it. It was quite pleasant to hear. Perhaps after experiencing this ordeal, he would be able to change his tone. A moment later, Jun Changxiao's entire body turned into a stone statue. However, due to the invasion of the external attributes, his entire body was burning hot and his skin had turned blood red. This situation was not similar to Yi Xingchen, who had lost his mind. This was even worse than him. We're in trouble. The system said, we have to call Ren Shan in as soon as possible. No need. Jun Changxiao clenched his fists and roared in his heart, I can handle it myself. The conversation between the two was thought-provoking. Who? The stone statue race bloodline in Jun Changxiao's body was fully activated, and reinforcements rushed in from all directions. They wore armor and helmets and rushed straight to the battlefield to fight against the invading gloomy attribute. At this moment, no one could help Go Sheng. If he wanted to resolve the current crisis, he could only rely on himself. It's over, it's over. The system said, the host is going crazy again. Wait, why did I say again? The reason was very simple. Along the way from the lower realm, Jun Changxiao had gone crazy many times, especially after obtaining the stone statue race in the dimensional battlefield. As long as he used it, he would immediately go berserk. Hoo-hoo. The two attributes went back and forth, fighting fiercely in his body. Perhaps the system's mouth worked again. The originally very serious situation suddenly changed, and the gloomy attribute began to weaken, and the painful symptoms were greatly alleviated. Jun Changxiao stood up, and his ferocious face relaxed. As for the stone statue race bloodline and the gloomy attribute in his body, perhaps because of friendship and affection, they began to gradually merge. What's going on? Jun Changxiao was a little confused. The system said, the two are resonating and merging. To be precise, the stone statue race bloodline is devouring this external attribute, blood. That's right. What merged into Go Sheng's body was not the attribute, but the remaining heavenly demon blood on the armor, so little fire and little Xia were helpless, and the stone statue race bloodline suddenly activated itself. Devour? Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. The system complained, the Shenyuan realm turned into a grain of sand and can enter and leave at will. It's already very tricky. I didn't expect the stone statue race bloodline to have the ability to devour. Jun Changxiao could not be bothered with it, and he looked inside his body. At first, the stone statue race bloodline's merging speed was not fast, but as it continued to devour, it seemed to become more familiar, and its speed also increased. So comfortable. The merging of the stone statue race bloodline and heavenly demon blood brought Jun Changxiao great pleasure, so he closed his eyes and quietly savored it, a bright smile on his face. Just now, he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead, but now, he was full of satisfaction. Many readers quietly opened shopping apps and began to cancel their unshipped gongs and firecrackers. Madam! The patriarch is not singing anymore. Outside the stone room, Ren Shan said anxiously. Jun Changxiao's screams just now were sometimes high and sometimes low, and it was a little scary, but at least it proved that he was still alive. Now that there was no sound, could it be? No. Ren Shan said with a serious look, I have to go in and take a look. Rose of Flowers said, my husband's body has obviously been invaded by some kind of element. Once he can't control his thoughts, I'm afraid he will go crazy. If you go in, you will be courting death. Ren Shan broke down, then what should we do? Wait. Rose of Flowers said so, but she was actually panicking, and she secretly prayed for Jun Changxiao, hoping that he could turn the danger into safety. Whoosh whoosh. At this time, a gloomy aura blew out from the stone room. Rose of Flowers and Ren Shan hurriedly retreated, and they could not help but feel a chill on their backs. Step. A foot stepped out of the stone room. The two subconsciously looked up and saw Jun Changxiao in blood-red armor, walking out with his head down, surrounded by an extremely gloomy aura. If the stone door was compared to hell, he was now a demon coming out. Gulp. Ren Shan swallowed and said with a trembling voice, Patriarch. Rose of Flowers frowned. At this moment, she could not help but think that her husband had not stabilized his mind and sea of consciousness, and he had completely lost his mind. Swish. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao looked up. His eyebrows and eyes were blood-red, and his face was full of gloomy coldness, as if he was a heartless, cold-blooded and ruthless person. Ren Shan and the Patriarch only looked at each other, and they were frightened by the gloomy aura and kept retreating. He's possessed. Hua Meigui's mind was in a mess. At this time, she did not know what to do. Swish. At this time, Jun Changxiao slowly raised his finger to Ren Shan, and the gloomy expression on his face was suddenly replaced by a smirk. Am I handsome? Chapter 17-16. The heavenly demon blood that surged into Jun Changxiao's body was all swallowed by the stone statue bloodline. It couldn't be said that. It could be considered as helping each other. Since it had fused, it naturally wouldn't cause any harm, so Go Sheng was fine. He even put on the armor. Before Gu Xianyuan left, he had warned him that if his spirit in heaven knew about this, he wouldn't know what he would think. Damn it! This guy was cheating. Whoosh! The moment he put it on, a blood-red luster appeared. After it disappeared, Jun Changxiao's eyebrows and eyes turned red. Power, energy, flesh and blood. He said in shock, they've all improved greatly. This is because after completely fusing with the Yin Sen's blood, the stone statue bloodline upgraded to 2. 0. What the hell is 2? 0. Needless to say, when Jun Changxiao carefully sensed, he found that there were 2 different kinds of energy in the flowing blood. Among them, the stone statue bloodline was the dominant one. Although his skin didn't look like a stone statue, it was still as hard as iron. Awesome! He stretched his back lazily and a smile appeared on his face. Wait! There was still the plain origin. Jun Changxiao walked to the crystal and placed one hand on it, saying, from now on, I am your master. Swish! The crystal instantly shrank and landed in his palm. In fact, when his soul entered and encountered Gu Xianyuan, who was formed by a trace of remnant thoughts, the origin and him had already merged into one. Congratulations! Go Sheng had become the master of the plane. He still remembered that Shi Jingxian was still the child of the plane. Now, compared to her, she was a generation inferior. After taking away the origin, Jun Changxiao strode out of the stone room, but because he was wearing the armor, he looked like a demon returning from hell. Oh my god! Ren Shan patted his chest and said, you scared me to death. After confirming that the patriarch hadn't lost his mind and asked if he was handsome, he immediately relaxed. Rose of Flowers also heaved a sigh of relief and asked, did you get the origin? Yes. Jun Changxiao nodded. Rose of Flowers smiled and said, this trip is quite fruitful. 100 billion spirit stones. Plain origin. Blood-stained armor. Any one of these three items could be considered a great opportunity. In the end, all of them were taken by Go Sheng. It was as if all the good things were taken by a dog. Let's go. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers. Whoosh! Whoosh! Together with him, rows of flowers, Ren Shan, and the guardian spirit beast, they instantly disappeared and appeared in mid-air above the battlefield. Amazing! Ren Shan widened his eyes. Just a moment ago, they were still in the depths of the mine, but the patriarch came out with a snap of his fingers. With a single thought, he could travel 10,000 miles in an instant, and with a single movement, he could control everything. He was the master of the plane. In fact, as long as a martial artist's realm was still within the range of the Heavenly Tao Order's control, it would take less than 0.01 seconds for him to die. Jun Changshao stood in the sky with his right hand by his ear. He closed his eyes and listened to everything in the world. He said, "I can hear the sound of rocks and sand. They seem to be saying that I'm handsome." The system broke down. This guy can only be serious for 3 seconds at most. Jun Changshao could not only listen to everything, but he could also see the mineral veins hidden underground. As long as he wanted it, he could keep it in his space ring with a wave of his hand. Of course, he would not go and take it again, because it had already lost its meaning. Senior Gu. Jun Changshao said, "This isn't just your home. From today onward, it's also my home. Not only will I inherit your will, but I'll also return this plane to prosperity and even become a transcendent existence that stands above everyone else." The upper realm. It was just a relay station. It was the same for the few planes he had encountered during his interstellar travel. People could not live without a home. Just like how he could not live without a female reader. Since he had obtained the Shenyuan domain today, he would settle down here. Luffy, who had always wanted to be the man of One Piece, had only become a regular after obtaining the Golden Mary. Go Sheng, who was forced to dominate the universe, had his own dock and his own aircraft carrier today. Eternal ship. Li Qingyang was seriously designing a sketch, and the wall behind him was filled with all kinds of designs. As the official head of internal affairs and civil engineer of the sect of all times, his wild imagination and majestic designs were not put into action. Of course. There was also Paige, who slept all day. Because there was no soil, because there was no land to cultivate, she spent her days in a daze. They were waiting for Yen Zhong to go off topic and compete in the universe, so that he could return to the sect. Kill! Kill! On the independent battlefield, the sound of killing shook the sky. In an area suspected to have a spirit vein, thousands of martial artists from both worlds were killing each other. Their lives dissipated with the explosion of energy. For martial arts resources, it was normal to kill each other. Xiao! Just as the two realms' cultivators were fighting to the death, Jun Changshao appeared in the sky. Ga! In an instant, an aura that could not be disobeyed appeared around him. Nearly 10,000 people were bound, and it was as if someone had pressed the pause button. Martial arts are precious, but the value of life is even higher. Jun Changshao said, "You don't have to kill each other for the spirit vein anymore." His voice sounded calm, but the martial artists who were bound were horrified, because a powerful force that could not be disobeyed pressed down on them, and then, Xiao! 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 In an instant, the martial artists from both worlds who gathered nearby all disappeared into thin air. When they came back to their senses, they were either in the Imperial Soul Realm or the Imperial Celestial Realm. They looked at each other in confusion. What's going on? Aren't we on the independent battlefield? The martial artists from both worlds did not know that Jun Changshao sent them all home as the realm master of the Shenyuan realm. At the independent battlefield, the Imperial Celestial Realm's stronghold. Elder Lin and the others stood in front of the main hall, feeling the vast aura, and their eyes were filled with shock. The reason? Jun Changshao was hanging in the sky. The Imperial Celestial Realm had dealt with Gosheng several times, so they knew a little about him. But now that they met again, his appearance and aura were completely different, as if he was the supreme ruler. Here. As the master, Jun Changshao was a god. You guys. Gosheng waved his hand and said, go back. Xiao. 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 Elder Lin and the others were sent back to the Imperial Celestial Realm with a horrified mentality. As for the stronghold built on the battlefield, it was instantly erased and restored to its previous barren state. Buzz! At the same time, the dark vortex in the Imperial Celestial Realm that connected to the battlefield began to spin, until it became smaller and smaller until it completely disappeared. It's gone. The entrance to the battlefield is gone. The vortex had existed for a long time, and it had always existed regardless of rain or shine. Now they were sent back first, and then watched it slowly disappear. The sudden changes made Elder Lin and the others unable to come back to their senses for a long time. The experts of the Imperial Soul Realm were also sent out, and the stronghold of the Imperial Soul Realm was also erased. However, Jun Changshao temporarily kept the dark vortex connecting the two worlds, because after settling the sect, he still had to take rows of flowers to the Imperial Soul Realm to reunite with her family. Xiao. In the starry sky area where Eternal was docked, an inconspicuous grain of sand suddenly trembled, and then Jun Changshao and the others appeared out of thin air. Damn! Gosheng said in surprise, it's really a grain of sand. The system said, the host has picked up a treasure. In the future, when you encounter danger outside, you can totally hide in it. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, it's boring to hide such a big plane. After the transformation, it will be restored to its original state, and it will stand proudly in the universe's starry sky as a legend passed down through the ages. Chapter 1717. Shenyuan Realm. The upper echelons and disciples of the sect of all times stood in the yellow sand. Their expressions were wonderful. Jun Changshao had brought Ren Shan to the battlefield. They did not know what they had experienced, so they were stunned when they were suddenly brought in. How is it? Gosheng smiled. Our home is not bad, right? Everyone was still in a daze. Patriarch. Su Xiaoma said, although the heaven and earth attributes here are very rich, we can't absorb them at all. Clap. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers. In an instant, the heaven and earth attributes that were originally very resistant to martial artists became docile. We can absorb them now. Su Xiaoma said excitedly, such strong attributes must be stronger than absorbing the Dao Stone. Dao Stone? Jun Changshao said disdainfully, it's already history. Indeed. Just the heaven and earth attributes that filled the Shenyuan realm were enough to kill the Dao Stone in the upper realm. This was all thanks to Gu Shenyuan. Before he died, he hid all the vitality of all living things underground and did something to the origin so that the heaven and earth attributes that were released could not be absorbed by outsiders. The once glorious plain had become a barren land. This was actually a kind of regression. However, because all living things had left, the vitality of all living things was preserved underground. Instead, it continued to operate normally for countless years and even continued to evolve. The most typical example was the wild growth of spirit veins. The upper realm also had mineral veins, but most of the heaven and earth attributes released by the origin had been snatched away by martial artists. Then, it was overexploited. After a long time, it could not keep up with the pace. Qingyang. Jun Changshao waved his hand and pointed at the vast wilderness. Such a big place, you can build it however you want. Li Qingyang was so excited that his fingers were trembling. In addition to practicing martial arts, he often studied all kinds of building blueprints. Today, it finally came in handy. Page. Jun Changshao said again, there's so much soil, you can eat as much as you want. Roar. Page let out an excited roar. Although the Shenyuan realm looked like a wasteland, its soil contained the attributes of heaven and earth, so it would definitely taste delicious. The more it ate, the stronger it became. At the same time, it could reclaim wasteland for construction. It was killing two birds with one stone. Patriarch. Li Qingyang asked, "Are we going to build a sect here?" "There's no need for such trouble." Jun Changshao said, "I'll go back to the upper realm and move Mount Ironbone here." The sect of all times was already built well, so there was no need to rebuild it. Of course. Jun Changshao had spared no expense in returning to the upper realm, mainly because he had something more important to do, and that was to send all the martial artists from the Falling Star continent into the upper realm. The Xianyuan realm was extremely vast. With 100,000 sects living here, it seemed a bit lonely and cold. The Falling Star continent. He held an extremely high position in Jun Changshao's heart. Therefore, now that there was a plain, the first thing he wanted to do was to bring all the living beings here. Of course, there were also people in the upper realm that Go Xing cared about, such as Jinren Tonggu, Masato Kitano, and the other rogue cultivators. Naturally, he would ask them if they were willing to move. That's great. After learning about the patriarch's idea, Su Xiama cheered excitedly. Although his fiancée Xia Shuiyun had joined the sect of all times and was by his side, her parents were still in Ironbone Town. If he could bring them over, as children, he could also show his filial piety. Li Qingyang and the others also had relatives in the Falling Star continent, so they agreed with the patriarch's idea. However, only Xiao Ziji was in low spirits. The Xiao family in Liang City was still surviving in the cracks, and their lives were getting worse day by day. However, to him, they were no longer family. There was also Murong Xian. Since fulfilling the 3-year promise, the two of them had not interacted with each other. Thinking about it carefully, Xiao Ziji really had no relatives or friends in the Falling Star continent. No wonder he was in low spirits. "What's on your mind?" Jun Changshao asked. "Nothing." Xiao Ziji said, "Nothing." Jun Changshao patted him on the shoulder and said, "Qingyang and little Mo already have their other halves. Even Xingqian is no longer the Xingqian of the past. You have to work harder." Coincidentally, Elder Wei walked over and heard the patriarch's words. His expression suddenly became interesting. Did I hear it wrong? Someone with the patriarch's EQ was giving his disciple a lesson on relationships? Elder Wei. Jun Changshao said, "What's the matter?" "Patriarch, although the attributes here are rich, it's all wilderness. Do we need to transform it?" "We need it very much. Beautiful mountains and clear waters were naturally better than yellow sand. It was necessary to transform the ecological environment of the Shenyuan realm." Elder Wei. Jun Changshao said, "I'll leave this matter to the medical hall. If conditions permit, you can plant herbs and plants." Elder Wei's mouth twitched. It would definitely be a big project to plant herbs in such a big world. However, when he thought of the medicinal herbs everywhere and the fragrance in the air, he immediately said, "No problem." Boom! 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 In an open area, Page dug back and forth with his head close to the ground according to Li Qingyang's design plan. The first city after the Shenyuan realm was sealed would appear here. It was also a place with good feng shui that Jun Changshao had specially chosen. Boom! Boom! Yi Xingqian, Xiao Ziji, and the others were not idle either. They temporarily acted as construction workers and condensed the power of true spirit to build wooden piles. Needless to say, they looked pretty good. This was all thanks to the fact that Li Qingyang would bring them over every time he repaired the sect. Not only were they good at making wooden piles, but they were also good at modifying beams, interior decorating, repairing nuclear bombs, and even putting film on mobile phones. Whoosh! At this moment, the space in the sky distorted, and 10 battleships were sent in and then quietly hung in the air. The Shenyuan realm was not only the sect of all time's new home, but it was also a dock for the battleships. The construction of the first city took some time. Jun Changshao did not supervise the whole process and took Eternal back the way they came. As for the disciples, they were either helping out or improving their cultivation in the Shenyuan realm. Husband. Rose of Flowers walked into the cockpit and said, "Since you're going to pick up the people of the Falling Star continent, why don't you bring the soul race with you?" "No problem." Jun Changshao had also thought about it. As soon as he finished speaking, Rose of Flowers kissed him on the face. This move was so sudden that Go Sheng was caught off guard. It was as if she had poked his chrysanthemum terrace. He jumped up from his chair and said angrily, "What are you doing?" "Of course it's to thank you." Rose of Flowers turned around and left with her hands behind her back like an innocent girl. Jun Changshao rubbed his face that had been kissed and roared, "Rose of Flowers, I'm the Sect master. Can't you show some respect?" Chapter 17-18. The Shenyuan realm was huge. It was easy to accommodate a living being from a lower realm, so it was not a problem to bring the soul race in. This was related to Jun Changshao. If others wanted to come in, it was impossible. Of course. It was not a wise move to lock the realm in isolation. On the way to the upper realm, Jun Changshao started to think that when the realm developed, he could set up an immigration office to manage immigrants. "You want to become a legal resident of the Sect of all times? Sure, pay up." The system complained, "Host, this is not developing the Sect, this is developing the realm. You might as well change the name to the strongest realm of all times." "Bullshit." Jun Changshao said, "The Sect of all times oversees the Shenyuan realm. How is it not considered developing the Sect? Furthermore, I've said it. Whether the Shenyuan realm can resound throughout the universe in the future depends on my Sect, right?" The system was speechless. Indeed, the strength of a realm did not depend solely on the attributes of heaven and earth. It also depended on the support of top powerhouses and various forces. The Sect of all times was located here, and its rise and fall would directly affect the rise and fall of the Shenyuan realm. Therefore, it was still a Sect and not a realm. When I have a son in the future, not only can he inherit a Sect, but he can also inherit a realm. He will definitely be a strong second generation. Jun Changshao said. Pfft. The system laughed. An idiot of steel was actually thinking about descendants. He might as well be Li Xingtian. However, thinking about it carefully, with Gosheng's personality, if he really had a son, when he was old and had no more desires, he would probably call his son over and solemnly tell him that he was leaving this sect and this plane to him, and that he was leaving. Even if there was, perhaps, it would be another book, another story. He had already thought of the introduction. The little dog was still in swaddling clothes when his father heartlessly abandoned him. It would see how a child woke up his uncle masters, senior brothers, and senior sisters one by one from their deep sleep and led them on a journey to find his father. The title of the book was, The Story of a Dog's Father, The Little Dog Finds His Father. What are you thinking about? Rose of Flowers asked. Jun Changshao, who was deep in thought, blurted out, I miss my son. Swearing an oath was definitely a habitual way of thinking. It was definitely not Gosheng's original intention, so when he said it, he immediately realized that something was wrong and almost raised his hand to slap his own face. Rose of Flowers froze for a moment, then turned her head and said angrily, Who wants to give you a son? A slip of the tongue, a slip of the tongue. Jun Changshao hastily explained, I'm thinking about Constellation's son. What does it have to do with Yi Xingchen? The system roared, even if he has a son, he should be the one thinking about it. Why do you have to think about it? Hungry? Rose of Flowers said, Do you want me to cook for you? Astonished, Jun Changshao asked, You can cook? This woman was very capable. After all, she used to manage a clan, but Lu Wancher was in charge of cooking in the sect. He had never seen her cook. In the eyes of you men, Isn't it natural for a woman to know how to cook? Rose of Flowers said. June Changshao heard the hidden meaning in her words and hurriedly said, "For the record, I have no discrimination against you women." "Then what are you waiting for?" Rose of Flowers said, "Hurry to the cafeteria, the food is getting cold." "Are you done?" "Yes." It took time to go to the upper realm, and June Changshao rarely cultivated. Since he had nothing to do anyway, he went to the cafeteria. Because there were no higher-ups or disciples in the battleship, there were only 2 people in the large cafeteria. It looked very empty, but it also looked very romantic. "Pa!" Rose of Flowers put a dish on the table and smiled, "I learned this from Wancher. It's your favorite spicy fish head." "Don't say it." The aroma wafted over, and it was very spicy. June Changshao's appetite was stimulated. He picked up his chopsticks and picked up something. He collapsed and said, "Big sister, you didn't even scrape off the fish scales? What kind of dish are you making? You still want to scrape off the fish scales?" "Nonsense, have you ever seen fish scales when you eat fish?" "I don't eat fish." June Changshao's expression was wonderful. No wonder every time Lu Wancher made fish-related dishes, she didn't even look at them and ignored them. Forget it, forget it. Since she cooked in person, he had to give her face. After all, as a patriarch, he could not hurt his subordinates' hearts. June Changshao pushed aside the layers of fish scales, picked up a piece of meat, and put it in his mouth. He closed his eyes and tasted it carefully. Rose of Flowers looked at him expectantly. It was her first time cooking, and she let her husband taste it, so she was very concerned. "Not bad, not bad." After a while, June Changshao nodded and said, "The taste is very good." Rose of Flowers had a bright smile on her face. There was no noble temperament on her face, and she looked more like a happy little girl who was praised. "God!" June Changshao said to himself, "This is definitely a hellish dark cuisine." The fish scales were not even scrubbed off. It would be strange if it was delicious. However, Go Xing had to give a good review at this moment, so as not to hurt her self-esteem. "Eat more if it's delicious." Rose of Flowers pushed the dishes over. June Changshao's mouth twitched slightly. On the same day, Go Xing went to the toilet a total of 36 times. When he came out, he held the wall with both hands, his legs were weak, and he cried, "This is not spicy fish head, this is spicy poison." Everyone had shortcomings. For example, June Changshao was tone-deaf and sang out of tune. In particular, Rose of Flowers was not human, so she had no talent in cooking. Even if Lu Wancher taught her step by step, she might not be able to understand. "Come. Sweet and sour carp. Come, for happiness meatballs." After receiving June Changshao's praise and recognition, Rose of Flowers was immersed in cooking. On the way to the upper realm, she was in charge of 3 meals a day. Go Sheng looked at the camera and said with tears streaming down his face, "Brothers, it's too hard for me. I've been under a lot of pressure recently." The upper realm. After June Changshao left with his disciples, it became extraordinarily calm. In fact, before Go Xing came, it had been very quiet here. The various waves that arose after that were directly or indirectly related to him. Wait a minute. In the extreme cave abode, Masato Kitano was about to place a piece when he was interrupted by Jinren Tonggu. Jinren Tonggu then took away the piece he had placed earlier and placed it in another position. This was repentance. "I said." Masato Kitano looked at him and said, "Can you be a little more shameless? You repentance 120 times yesterday. I've only repentance 103 times today," Jinren Tonggu said disapprovingly. Masato Kitano shattered the chessboard with a palm and said, "I'm not playing anymore. This was destroying the game." "Fine, I'm not playing anymore." Jinren Tonggu stood up and walked out of the cave abode. He looked up at the sky and said thoughtfully, "That disciple of mine, he didn't cause any trouble outside, did he?" "Whether he does or not, you can't take the blame," Masato Kitano said. Jinren Tonggu shook his head and said, "This guy is gone. Although it's very quiet, I still miss him a little." "Master! I'm back." Suddenly, a voice sounded in his ears. Jinren Tonggu's expression froze. He turned around and saw Jun Changshao squatting on the outdoor chessboard and smiling at him. At that moment, his first reaction was, "This guy didn't cause any trouble outside and deliberately came to me to take the blame, right?" Chapter 1719. Inside the extreme cave abode, Jinren Tonggu held his chin as if he was constipated. He was surprised by Jun Changxiao's sudden appearance, and even more surprised when he said that he would take him away from the upper realm. "Jun Patriarch." Masato Kitano shook his head and said, "We haven't entered the half-step divine mystery state yet. Even if we can leave on a warship, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for us to survive." The universe was so big, and they also wanted to go out. However, they hadn't reached the third step, and they didn't even have the ability to break through the space barrier. Jun Changshao said, "Senior, don't worry. I'll take care of everything." Masato Kitano looked at his old friend and said, "Why don't you go out with your disciple and see the world?" He was already tempted. Playing chess all year round was actually a kind of cultivation. If he had the chance to go out and explore, he might be able to get some inspiration and reach the threshold of the third step. Jinren Tonggu was still constipated and thinking. "All right." In the end, he agreed. "Master, Senior. Relax, I'll send you to a place." "A place?" Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano were stunned, but they still followed Jun Changxiao's instructions. They felt their vision blur, and then they appeared in the Shenyuan realm. In front of them was a newly completed new city. "Pa!" The two of them appeared. Yixingchen pressed on the magically modified sound system, and a dynamic melody suddenly came out. Yao Menjing sat on the city wall and made a heart shape with her small hands. Then she smiled sweetly at you and sang, "Welcome another dawn, brand new air." Elder Wei, who was planting herbs, stood up and continued singing, "The atmosphere changes, the mood stays the same, the tea fragrance is full of friendship. My door is always open, waiting for you with open arms." The charmingly Luochio leaned against the city gate and winked at you. Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano's mouths twitched. A bunch of lunatics. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yixingchen, and the others appeared on screen. They were either standing on the mountain peaks or singing in the city, rendering the atmosphere extremely amusing. When the beautiful melody was about to reach its peak, Jun Changshao stood with his back against the city gate tower. He turned around with the rhythm and slowly stretched out his arms. He raised his head and sang, "Welcome you forever, I'll create a new world for you, Poo. Poo." Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano spat out blood on the spot. Actually, the upper echelons and disciples sang quite well, but the moment Gosheng opened his mouth, the atmosphere was instantly destroyed. It seemed that his previous torture by the heavenly demon blood did not change his tone deafness. In fact, it was even worse than before. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Jinren Tonggu squatted at the city gate. His expression changed again and again. The shock in his heart was indescribable. Although the welcoming ceremony just now was amusing, it was undeniable that the heaven and earth attributes in this realm were dozens of times stronger than the upper realm. "Old buddy." Masato Kitano was stunned for a long time. He said, "I'm dreaming, slap." Jinren Tonggu struck first. He swung his hand and slapped his face. He asked, "Does it hurt?" "It hurts. It's not a dream." The two of them were even more shocked. "Master." Jun Changshao walked over and said, "The city has just been built. The internal facilities are not complete, so I'll have to trouble you for a few days." Jinren Tonggu asked, "Brat, where is this place?" "The eternal world." Jun Changshao said, "My realm." Alright. The Xianyuan realm did not escape the fate of being renamed. However, it was still passable. At least it sounded better than the dog realm. Your realm. Jinren Tongu and Masato Kitano widened their eyes. Whoosh! At this moment, the two of them suddenly disappeared from the city gate. They floated in the sky, then disappeared again and reappeared in the barren land. Do you believe it now? Jun Changshao stood beside them with a smile on his face. Although Jinren Tongu and Masato Kitano were not half-step, they had been through a lot. There was only one possibility for him to bring them back and forth freely. He had really mastered the origin of the realm and could manipulate space at will. God! How long had it been since he left the upper realm? What had he experienced? Jinren Tongu calmed down and said, "My disciple has a realm." Doesn't that mean? He paused and said in shock, "He's the master of the realm." Yes. Jun Changshao looked at the sky at a 45-degree angle. The pretentious atmosphere had reached its peak. The initial construction of the city was completed. However, due to its large size, it took a lot of time to build the interior. As for Jinren Tongu and Masato Kitano, they were already shocked by the rich heaven and earth attributes. They could not be driven away even if they wanted to. Disciple, can you send the extreme grade cave abode in? Don't you live in the city? I've already jumped out of the 3 realms and the 5 elements. Okay. Jun Changshao sent the extreme grade cave abode in and placed it on a mountain peak hundreds of miles away from the city. After he was done, he went to look for the 7 sages of the ethereal world. At first, these people refused. However, after being sent to the eternal world and feeling the rich heaven and earth attributes, they were all impressed. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian walked over and said weakly, "Can you bring my master here too?" When the era of spaceflight began, this woman got on board. However, because her plot was still in the queue, her appearance was almost non-existent. Okay. Thank you. Unlike Masato Kitano and the others who had a good relationship with Jun Changshao, Gu Hongjinren was very strange. As soon as Gosheng finished speaking, he said impatiently, "Get out of here. I'm not interested in going out to have a look." Gosheng was a little embarrassed. Okay. Special circumstances could only be treated differently. Senior, look at the gray plane. Gu Hongjinren looked up. Bang! Jun Changshao chopped the back of his head with a hand knife. He suddenly fainted on the ground and was then carried back to the eternal world. It was simple and violent, but the effect was excellent. What are you doing here? On a mountain peak, Immortal Qing Wei said with a cold face. Jun Changshao, who had just landed, said, "Senior, you helped us when thousands of clans invaded. I'll always remember this kindness. So, in order to repay this kindness, you let me kill my disciple? Senior, you're an experienced and knowledgeable expert. At that time, Empress Lingyao wanted to die. You should be able to see that, right?" Immortal Qing Wei was silent. Indeed, her disciple wanted to die. No one could be blamed for this. "I'm here this time to take you to a place that may help you reach the 3rd step," Jun Changshao said seriously. Although Immortal Qing Wei and Empress Lingyao were master and disciple, kindness was kindness, and hatred was hatred. Oh? Immortal Qing Wei was tempted. In fact, she knew that with Jun Changshao's current strength, it was easy to kill her. But speaking as a junior was giving her face, so she agreed. Alchemy Hall. Bai Zhaoyang's eyes widened. You heard right. Jun Changshao, who was sitting at the head of the table, took a sip of tea and repeated, "Summon everyone in the alchemy hall. I'll take you to a good place. In a plane, there must be no shortage of experts. There must also be elites in all walks of life, especially in the area of elixirs." Bai Zhaoyang said, "Jun Patriarch, are you kidding?" When he called all the members, when he entered the eternal world and felt the rich heaven and earth attributes, he was sure, he's not kidding. In just a few days, All the martial artists who were involved with the Sect of all times were sent to the eternal world. Unexpectedly, readers could leave comments to add, and those who met the requirements would be automatically filled in. Whoosh! After dealing with the matters in the upper world, Jun Changshao boarded the eternal ship and traveled through the void, flying to the falling star continent in the lower world. Aunt Wang! Save a bowl of noodles for me. Jun Changshao did not have any relatives in the falling star continent, but after transmigrating, he was saved by Aunt Wang, so he saw her as a relative. If he had a daughter, they would be siblings. Chapter 1720. Jun Changshao returned to the upper world. Just like how he came and went, he only took a group of elites with him. Of course. There were also other clans. The Dragon Clan and the Stone Statue Clan had a close relationship with Gosheng after all. The Divine Walker Clan and the Ice Phoenix Clan were also here. The Eternal World was very big. It was not difficult to accommodate dozens of upper worlds, let alone clans. If the Sect of all times was the only one who opened up the wasteland at the beginning, then the other clans would also open up the wasteland because they would not live with humans. East, Dragon Clan. West, Stone Statue Clan. South, Xian Turtle Clan. North, Ice Phoenix Clan. Jun Changshao stood in front of the Eternal World sand table. He waved his hand and gave each area to the clans, allowing them to build their own cities and even providing help unconditionally. Thank you, Jun Patriarch. The leaders of various clans were very excited. They could not absorb the heaven and earth attributes in the upper world because they were not of a high level, so they could only create an independent space suitable for living. But the eternal world was different. The heaven and earth attributes here were not only strong, but also all-encompassing. They could absorb as much as they wanted. Everyone. Standing on the undeveloped land that belonged to them, the Divine Walker clan leader could not suppress his excitement and said, "This is a great opportunity for our clan to enter the eternal world." The higher-ups nodded in agreement. With such majestic heaven and earth attributes, their clan would definitely prosper in the future if they settled here. Not only the Divine Walker clan. The other clans also thought so and even looked forward to the future. They began to work hard to open up the wasteland and build their own clans and tribes. In the extreme cave residence, Jinren Tonggu's expression was ugly. Because Jun Changshao not only brought Gu Hongjinren and Immortal Qingwei, but also arranged for their cave residences to be nearby so that they could see each other when they went out. Masato Kitano said, "I won't be lonely playing chess in the future." Humph, Gu Hongjinren snorted and then returned to his cave residence. Jinren Tonggu suddenly lost his temper and shouted, "You can enter the eternal world because of my disciple. Why are you so arrogant?" Bullshit. Gu Hongjinren ran out and yelled at the top of his lungs, "It's all thanks to my disciple. It has nothing to do with your disciple. This is my disciple's plane. How can it have nothing to do with him? He invited me." The more the two of them spoke, the more their tempers flared up. They rolled up their sleeves and moved closer to each other. In the end, their heads were pressed together, unable to suppress the anger in their bodies. Ba! Ba! Ba ba ba! Ba ba ba! A picturesque and interesting battle between masters unfolded. The falling star continent. Due to the invasion of the star spirit world, the spatial dent had yet to recover. In fact, if Jun Changshao hadn't come quickly and used the terrain remodeling instrument to reinforce it, this plane would have been completely destroyed. AI. In Ironbone Town's Yunlai Inn, Xie Guanquan raised his cup with a frown. Seeing this, Auntie Wang, who was doing accounts at the counter, shook her head and said, "Isn't it just spiritual energy gradually withering? Why does City Lord Xia have to sigh all day long?" Xie Guanquan put down his wine cup and said, "Shopkeeper Wang doesn't cultivate martial arts. Naturally, it's difficult for you to understand our frustration. Ever since Jun Changshao left the falling star continent, Due to the destruction of the plane, its attributes were deteriorating day by day. Just yesterday, the Martial Alliance had released an announcement that if the spiritual energy continued to flow, it would be difficult to maintain it for 2 years. In the martial arts world, without the supply of heaven and earth attributes, it was undoubtedly fatal. Therefore, not to mention Xie Guanquan, Taishan Xingzong, world-defying sacred sect, and other forces were also worried. In particular, City Lord Han of the Great Sage Imperial City was so worried that his hair turned white. In the Martial Alliance Hall, Yun He, who was acting as the temporary leader, sat at the head of the table with an unusually serious expression. He had just released an announcement, but according to the expert's strict calculations, it would probably take less than 2 years for the spiritual energy to disappear. Boss, Yin said, what should we do? What else can we do? Zizai, who was sitting next to him, put his hands together and said, we can only find another home. They were all middle-level void-piercing realm. When they were on duty in the Starry Sky Fortress, they had their own warships and had no problem taking the Falling Star Continent martial artists away. Moreover, the Falling Star Continent was now the trade station of the lower universe. Many planes came here to do business, so warships were very common. Leaving could be said to be easy. Before June Patriarch left, he told us to protect the Falling Star Continent. How can we abandon it? Yun He said. Everyone was silent. Leaving was really easy. But how could they face June Patriarch like this? Boom! At this moment, a loud noise came from outside. Everyone hurried out and saw that the sky that was once repaired by June Changshao began to crack and spread in all directions. We're in trouble. Yun He frowned and said, the plane system is about to collapse. Not good. Yin Hu said in shock, the surrounding heaven and earth attributes are flowing faster. Everyone's expression was unusually solemn. Everyone. Yun He turned his back to them and said, the Falling Star Continent suffered a previous disaster. Although June Patriarch repaired it, it is still difficult to reverse the situation. We can only prepare to leave. It was just that there was no spiritual energy, so it was acceptable. But now that the sky was about to collapse, it would be troublesome to stay. Yun He flew out of the hall and hovered in the sky. He said, as the interim leader of the Martial Alliance, I hereby announce that all major cities, major families, and major sects must gather as soon as possible and leave the Falling Star Continent. His voice reverberated in the world, and everyone heard it clearly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Warships hovered in the major cities, and martial artists boarded them in an orderly manner. Mother, are we leaving? The sky is about to collapse. We'll die if we don't leave. But this is our home. How can we leave without a care? The children's words made the adults fall silent. They did not want to leave either. There was no other way now, unless the omnipotent June Patriarch came. The Martial Alliance was very efficient. In half a day, tens of thousands of huge warships gathered in the sky. All the major states and forces had packed their luggage. Brother Feng. In Qingyang's city of Yangzhou in the southwest, a man said, let's go too. I'm not leaving. The man called Brother Feng had his back facing his companions. He looked at the former Iron Bone Mountain and said with a determined gaze, I want to wait for June Patriarch to come back. Brother. Our home is about to be gone. Tai Zi, go with them. The man said resolutely, I must wait for June Patriarch because, this is our agreement. Tai Zi's companion broke down. June Patriarch has already become an immortal. How can he remember you? Besides, if he's dead, what's the point of the agreement? No. The man said seriously, June Patriarch will definitely remember me. Tai Zi was completely speechless. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, a gust of wind whistled with a majestic aura. Yun He and the others' expressions changed. They hurriedly looked up and saw a huge steel warship flying in. It hovered in the sky like a deity, and there were 3 big words on it: Eternal. Dear folks. I'm back. Where's the applause? When the cheeky voice echoed in the sky, everyone shouted in joy, June Patriarch. Crack! Crack! At that moment, the falling star continent could no longer withstand the violent fluctuations. Space and Earth cracked rapidly. For a moment, floods swept up and volcanoes erupted. It was like the end of the world. Yunhee held his head and broke down. June Patriarch came in with great fanfare and accelerated the destruction of the falling star continent. Chapter 1721. The hidden danger caused by the invasion of foreign enemies had completely erupted today. The destruction of the falling star continent was inevitable. Of course. It was only a little bit away from death. It could at least hold on for a few more days. This gave the martial artists enough time to escape. So, although they were reluctant, they did not panic. Who would have thought? June Patriarch, who had been looking forward to the stars and the moon every day, returned at this critical moment. That aura and commotion was like a sharp sword stabbing into the heart of the falling star continent, hastening its death even though it was still breathing. Boom! Boom! The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The sun and moon lost their light. In the howling wind and the violent airwaves, there were faint sounds of crying and unwilling roars. I can still be saved. What's going on? Jun Changshao flew out of the warship, looking confused. Yunhee suppressed his breakdown and said, June Patriarch, the falling star continent is about to be destroyed. Who did it? Jun Changshao's expression instantly turned cold. Yunhee, Yin Hu, and the others pointed at him and said, You. Jun Changshao was stunned. When he learned the reason from everyone, he broke down and said, I didn't do it on purpose. June Patriarch. Yunhee said, the situation is very dangerous now. Evacuate the living beings and escape, or else, boom. Boom. At this moment, a large area of space collapsed. A gust of wind from the depths of the void whistled out, as sharp as a blade thrown by a reader to an author. This kind of void power could not affect void-piercing realm experts, but ordinary people would die if they touched it. We're in trouble. I'm afraid it's too late. Ziying, Yin Hu, and the others looked terrible. Then, they all looked at Jun Changshao. At this moment, he was the only one who could save the world from this crisis. Don't panic. Jun Changshao said indifferently. The world was about to be destroyed. How could they not panic? June Patriarch, think of a way. Otherwise, the destruction of the plane will implicate countless living beings. Yunhee urged. The situation was urgent, and there was no time to waste. Shwa! Jun Changshao took out a loudspeaker and said, Hello everyone, I am Jun Changshao. Yunhee and the others almost fell over. My dear elder brother, can we not talk nonsense? The falling star continent is about to be destroyed. Everyone, relax. Jun Changshao said. Yunhee and Yin Hu really wanted to go over and give him a good kick. Who could relax in such a situation? However, out of her infinite trust in him, she still forced herself to relax her mind and emotions before the world was about to be destroyed. June Patriarch must have a way to save us. Everyone, relax. For a moment, everyone closed their eyes. Even those ferocious beasts without intelligence were crouching on the trembling ground. When the end of the world came, living beings were like devout believers, placing their hopes of survival on the gods. A dog. Please save us. The height of a mountain does not matter if it has a dog. The depth of the water does not matter if it has a dog. While the living beings of the falling star continent were praying in silence, they seemed to be enveloped by some kind of holy light, and then they disappeared into thin air. Ironbone Town disappeared. Green Sun City disappeared. Southwest Yangzhou disappeared. All the living beings of the falling star continent disappeared. At this moment, I want to use one sentence to describe it. If miracles had a color, it would definitely be China red. Boom! Boom! Space collapsed, and the earth cracked. All kinds of natural disasters were becoming more and more intense on the falling star continent. Sob, sob. Sob, sob, sob. An illusory and ghost-like child was sitting on the ground, crying. Who was it? The plain origin. After all the living beings left and the world was about to be destroyed, it appeared like a helpless orphan. Compared to the origin of the Shenyuan realm, the origin of the falling star continent was just a child. I'm sorry. Jun Changshao landed and put a hand on its head. He said apologetically, I didn't protect this world well. I didn't protect you well. It's not your fault. The child choked. If you want to blame someone, blame those hateful invaders. Yeah. Jun Changshao's eyes were cold. The destruction of the world is all because of them. The warship came in just to accelerate time. The real reason was that it was invaded by foreign enemies, leaving behind a huge hidden danger. Otherwise, how could a lively world suddenly walk toward death? Jun Patriarch, the child wiped his tears and said, "Thank you for saving this world so many times." Although the spirit body condensed from the origin had never appeared, it naturally saw what Jun Changshao had done in the past, so it appeared this time to express its gratitude. The falling star continent is my home. Jun Changshao said, shouldn't you help him? Sob, sob. The child burst into tears and said, to be able to carry someone like Sect Master Jun, it can be considered as the blessing of 3 lifetimes. This life has not been in vain. Don't worry. Jun Changshao squatted down and put a hand on its head. I will destroy the star spirit world to avenge the falling star continent. I believe Jun Patriarch can do it, but... The child sobbed. I can't wait until that day. The plane was destroyed. It would also turn into nothingness. Jun Changshao smiled and said, I don't have the ability to save this world, but I have the ability to save you. If you're willing to leave this place, I can find you a new home. A new home? The child looked at him in shock. Relax, I'll take you home. Jun Changshao's voice was very gentle, like a kind father. This kind of person who was funny, silly, gentle, and serious in one was really hard to estimate. Whoosh! Whoosh! The cold wind was like a blade, tearing everything apart. A plane that was considered young in the lower universe gradually collapsed and disintegrated due to the destruction of external forces. Whoosh! Suddenly, the entire world was shrouded in flames, and the dark universe became bright because of it. Jun Changshao walked out of the fire, his expression was neither sad nor happy. Fire. He was the one who said it. It was a high-level funeral. Star Spirit World. Jun Changshao was in the endless universe, and his eyes gradually became cold. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. To Xie Guangquan and the others, the falling star continent was their home, and it was also his home. Now that the star spirit world was destroyed, he was not a gentleman if he did not take revenge. Jun Changshao's gentleman. Wang! Wang! At this moment, the lower universe shook, and dozens of battleships slowly appeared and surrounded Eternal. Jun Changshao saw this and was filled with killing intent. Because these battleships that suddenly appeared had the word Star Spirit World Fleet engraved on them. I'm angry, and you guys actually appeared. Very good. Very good. Kid. A cold voice came from the main battleship. You think I can't find you if you hide in the lower universe? Ridiculous. Whoosh. Magna-like flames spread all over his body and gradually condensed into a golden chain armor. He gently raised his right hand, and the flames formed a robe. The Zenith Immortal Sword appeared out of thin air until it was held in his hand. Jun Changshao looked up with red eyes and monstrous killing intent. All of you will die with me. Chapter 1722. A year ago, when Jun Changshao left the upper realm and started the era of great navigation, the star spiritual realm immediately sent a huge fleet. They could confirm that the movement came from Eternal. To put it bluntly, the battleship was produced by someone else, so it was normal to install some GPS in it when it left the factory. It was not that the old man from Taixien did not notice it, but that he did not have the ability to do so for the time being. However, he had always been studying the battleship and modifying the array route. Sooner or later, he would find clues and erase them, so no one had to worry that Go Sheng would be hunted endlessly. Buried with him. A sneer came from the main battleship. Are you talking in your sleep? Crack! Crack! The bottom cabins of dozens of battleships opened. Warriors of the star spiritual realm with excellent equipment flew out one after another. There were as many as 100,000 of them, and most of them were at the middle and upper level of the truth-seeking realm. There were even some at the peak of the truth-seeking realm or the half-step prophet realm. Although the first fleet had sent people to invade the upper realm, their main combat power was still the drone. Now that they had brought so many warriors, it could be seen that they were serious. This kid could not be left alive. It was not just words. They had to put it into action. Swish! After the army gathered, a silver-haired man flew out of the main battleship. This person's skin was fair and delicate, and his figure was even more graceful than a woman's. He could be said to be a feast for the eyes. The handsome man used to be quite feminine. However, compared to this white-haired man, he was simply too masculine. If someone asks who is the handsome man, I can only use the word handsome to explain. The white-haired man was the captain of the fleet, and his status and strength were higher than the captain of the first fleet of the star spiritual realm. According to their calculation, his combat power was over 10,000. TSK, he sneered and said, if you haven't broken 10,000, don't pretend to be a cabbage. There was an accurate analysis instrument in the main battleship, which clearly captured Jun Changshao's combat power at this moment. The value was no more than 9,000. Of course. It was better to wear the Great Saint set. Before wearing it, his combat power was less than 7,000. From the combat power value alone, the difference between without equipment and with equipment was quite big. No wonder Jun Changshao could defeat a group of powerhouses in the Imperial Celestial Realm with the Immortal Sword. Kid! The white-haired man said indifferently, how dare you use my star spiritual realm battleship? You must be tired of living. Of course. It's all thanks to you that I was able to find you. He was telling Jun Changshao that he had relied on Eternal to find him. You should be wondering if there's any mechanism in the warship that could expose the coordinates. I advise you to stop thinking about it, because dead people don't have thoughts. The white-haired man smiled coldly. Are you done? Jun Changshao spoke. His expression was cold, and so were his words. The system, which often made jokes and ridiculed him crazily, was unusually silent. This was because it knew that its host was absolutely serious at this time, and it could not disturb the atmosphere. Tsk tisk. The white-haired man said disdainfully, it's quite scary. His eyes suddenly turned cold as he said, today, I'll let you know what death is. Swish! Swish! All of a sudden, streaks of light tore through the void and rushed toward Jun Changshao. It was a tiny needle, but it was incomparably sharp. Ding! Ding! Jun Changshao stood with his sword horizontally, blocking all the hidden projectiles. Rip! Rip! The thin needles that flew out tore through the lower layer of the universe, showing deep and long cracks. It was obvious that the thin needles were not ordinary, but a high-level treasure. Swish! Swish! At this moment, the white-haired man rushed over. He seemed to have turned into ghost, leaving behind a dazzling afterimage wherever he went, making it difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. This was a show of operation, this was a show of himself. It was not important whether Jun Changshao was surprised or not, what was important was that the group of subordinates were excited. The captain's heaven destruction vertical shadow step had been cultivated to perfection, die. Suddenly, a cold shout interrupted the thoughts of the astral spirit world martial artists. They only saw a huge sword aura occupying their field of vision, and they were all stunned, their scalps tingling. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. In the main warship, on the screen that was locked onto Jun Changshao, his combat power rose crazily, from more than 9,000 to 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, the crew's eyes were about to pop out. The white-haired man was connected to the main warship, so he naturally saw it, so his expression changed, and he said in disbelief, "How can this be?" Whoosh, the sword aura exploded, tearing the space apart. Lingyuan continent. Kuji Nan was lying in the backyard, basking in the sun. As Jun Changshao's close business partner, he had lived a very comfortable life these past few years. Suddenly, his eyes widened. A light visible to the naked eye suddenly appeared in the calm sky. "This is..." Kuji Nan stood up and said in shock, "Sword aura." The powerhouses of Lingyuan continent all saw the light that seemed to pierce through heaven and earth, as if it could pierce through eternity, and their hearts were suddenly deeply shocked. The universe. The sword aura appeared from the universe. 9 Heavens continent. Mo Shangsheng sat in the main hall, discussing matters with the higher-ups. Governor. At this moment, a subordinate rushed in and said in shock, There's a situation outside." "What's the situation?" Mo Shangsheng stood up and walked out of the main hall, until he saw the sword aura that appeared in the sky, and the expression on his face froze. "Sword aura." A void-piercing powerhouse said in shock. The Crimson Sea continent, Lingyun continent, Xingxian continent, Imperial Sword continent, and so on. These planes that had appeared on the battlefield all saw the dazzling sword aura at the same time, and they were all deeply shocked. A sword slashed out. The entire lower universe's planes could see it clearly. This was amazing. It could be given 10,000 points. Although the full score was 100 million. Whoosh! Whoosh! The falling star continent was still burning, and in the starry sky near it, an incomparably huge crack appeared, as if the entire lower universe was divided into two. Dozens of huge battleships hovered around, and 100,000 powerhouses stood in place in a daze. The white-haired man was also there. His body and muscles seemed to be stiff. In front of him, Jun Changshao's battle robe fluttered in the wind, flames spread around his body, and the zenith immortal sword stood there as bright as light. This was not the point. The point was that behind him, there was a macaque that looked both real and illusory. It crossed its arms and said coldly, "This weapon is far inferior to my Rui Jingu Bang." "You," the white-haired man spoke. However, just as he said a word, a crack appeared on his forehead, spreading down from his nose and mouth. Finally, he broke into 2 pieces and floated toward the burning falling star continent. Pucci! Pucci! At the same time, more than 100,000 astral spirit world martial artists disintegrated and collapsed. Broken limbs and blood floated freely, as if it had turned into a purgatory on Earth. Boom! Boom! Dozens of battleships also cracked, and they were destroyed along with their users. One sword and they were all destroyed. The return of a great sage was terrifying. Sigh. The system shook its head and said, "In order to destroy them, I emptied my 3 points and invited a great sage to come out. The host is really not human when he is serious." Whoosh! Whoosh! 100,000 corpses were all brought to the falling star continent. Not only were they burned to ashes, but they also helped the flames to burn more and more. Even the spatial rings they carried with them were turned into nothingness. Jun Changshao, who was used to looting, did not take it because the resources inside were all burial goods. His back was facing the flames. His expression was still cold. This was a world of difference from his previous frivolous and despicable attitude. Readers who did not know better might think that he had been possessed by an assassin or a soldier king. However, from the start of the chapter to now, from the start of the fight to the end, Jun Changshao only said 4 words. Was he done? Chapter 1723. After traveling from the star spirit world, the white-haired man went through a lot of hardships and spent more than a year to finally find Jun Changshao. Then, he sang a song in front of Jun Changshao. It was very beautiful. No wonder he spoke so much just now. If he didn't speak now, he wouldn't have the chance. The white-haired man was stronger than the general of the first fleet in the star spirit world. There was no doubt that the men and fleet he brought were not ordinary. But no matter how strong he was, he couldn't escape being destroyed. Some people would ask why Gosheng was so strong. He killed 100,000 people with one sword and destroyed dozens of warships with one sword. Even Gu Tianqing couldn't do that. It was very simple. He emptied the 3 points. Over the years, Jun Changshao rarely bought goods in the mall. The amount of 3 points stored was quite large. Just the contribution points alone, forget it. It had already been used. There was no point in talking about it. Emptying the 3 points was a protection mechanism provided by the system for the host. The power naturally depended on the number of points. Gu Tianqing destroyed the battleships one by one with his axe as if he was chopping vegetables. After emptying the 3 points, Jun Changshao only used one sword to destroy stronger warriors and more warships. Who dared to say that he didn't have a trump card? Of course. It was also because of the destruction of the falling star continent that he didn't hesitate to use a big move. Otherwise, in the past, if he couldn't beat him, he would run away and fight him when his level was higher. Jun Changshao was usually not serious and often cheeky. In fact, when it came to matters, he was absolutely serious as if he had been possessed. "Husband," Rose of Flowers said, "are you okay?" The falling star continent turned into ashes in the fire. Jun Changshao also returned to the eternal ship. His serious look was still not back, which made people extremely uncomfortable. Of course. It was not caused by excessive force. The anger in his heart didn't dissipate because of the white-haired man and 100,000 men. Immortal star spirit world. Jun Changshao gritted his teeth and said, "Jun Changshao, swear not to be a human." Murderous intent and anger gathered in the cockpit, which made Rose of Flowers feel apprehensive. Eternal world. In the city built by Li Qingyang, City Lord Xia, family head AI, and the others were walking on the streets. The shock in their eyes had yet to fade. They had been sent here for 2 days and were already used to the new plane. However, every time they felt the majestic heaven and earth attributes, they still felt as if they were in a dream. Unbelievable. Yunhe stood on the city gate tower, his hands trembling uncontrollably. The heaven and earth attribute here is even stronger. Let's stay here forever. Jun Changshao said without any expression on his face. He still looked serious. This was a force. It would take some time for it to fade. Actually, it was pretty good. At least he looked like a patriarch. To be honest, although the living beings of the falling star continent had lost their home, they had also obtained great opportunities in exchange for it. Because if they lived in the Shenyuan realm for a long time, not to mention breaking through to the martial emperor realm, it was even possible for them to break through to the truth-seeking realm. It's not. He had only been here for 2 days. Of the 9 great martial emperors, 3 had broken through to the upper-level void-piercing stage. These were the high-level ones, and there were even more low-level ones. It was as if there were people advancing at every moment. Even Aunt Wang, who did not practice martial arts, broke through from an ordinary person to the martial king realm just by breathing. I broke through. Ha ha ha, I broke through. Excited shouts rang out frequently, making them forget their sadness and immerse themselves in the joy of breaking through. In fact, the heaven and earth attributes that the creatures of the falling star continent absorbed were deliberately suppressed by Jun Changshao. Because if they absorbed the complete version with their current cultivation, they would immediately explode and die. The upper and lower worlds had their own rules. What level of absorption and what attributes to absorb had to be carefully considered. For example, He Wudi. He came from the high-level plane and was forced to go to the lower world. Although he could still practice, because of the asymmetry of attributes, 99% of the martial arts lost their effect. As for the warriors from the lower world who came to the high-level world, they were only martial disciples and could absorb a certain amount of heaven and earth attributes. If they suddenly absorbed thousands or tens of thousands of times more than before, their bodies naturally could not bear it and they would explode and die on the spot. Fortunately, this situation did not happen because Jun Changshao had adjusted the settings before sending them here. The degree of heaven and earth attributes that they could comprehend would be determined by their strength. The default value would be 100 times more than before. If someone's physique was weak and could not withstand 100 times more, their attributes would automatically be lowered to ensure that they could adapt to the new environment. On the contrary, those with strong physiques would automatically be overclocked. The system sighed. Only the host has such a brain hole. I won't be surprised if you create a system in the future. Jun Patriarch. Yun he cupped his fists and said seriously, this is a great kindness. Losing the falling star continent and gaining a stronger plane was a blessing in disguise. There are many things waiting to be done in the eternal world. Jun Changshao said, I have to ask everyone to build it together. No problem. Whoosh! The eternal ship cut through the void and flew toward the endless universe. Jun Changshao did not return to the upper world immediately because he had to pick up the Soul Clan and the friends he made in the plain battlefield. Greetings, Emperor. Greetings, State Preceptor. On the Soul Clan continent, when Jun Changshao and rows of flowers flew out of the battleship and hovered in the sky, countless people prostrated themselves on the ground as if they were worshipping gods. Relax your mind. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jun Changshao waved his hand, and all the creatures in the harsh world disappeared into thin air and were sent to the eternal world. Rows of flowers said, thank you. Jun Changshao turned and flew toward the eternal ship. You and I are husband and wife. It's natural. No need to thank me. Rows of flowers stood there in a daze. After a long time, she smiled and said, my husband has changed. At present, Jun Changshao had indeed changed. He was no longer a person who liked to smile, and he was no longer a despicable person. He even began to act like a sect master when talking to his disciples. Second senior brother. Su Xiaoma also noticed it. He came over with a bowl of fried rice and squatted on the ground casually. He ate and said, the patriarch has been so serious recently. I'm not used to it. Li Qingyang put down the design sketch and said, the destruction of the falling star continent is a big blow to the patriarch. In other words, the second disciple was Jun Changshao's sweet little jacket. He hit the nail on the head. Su Xiaoma said, the patriarch is also a person who values friendship and righteousness. So, Li Qingyang said seriously, what we disciples can do is to keep getting stronger and use our lives to protect our homeland. We won't let the patriarch be heartbroken because of this. Understood. Su Xiaoma looked at the sky with a bowl of fried rice in his hand, his eyes shining with determination. Who on earth is this person who can cut through the universe with one sword strike? Outside the Lingyuan continent, the local void-piercing realm masters gathered together and looked at the huge sword mark that was far away but clearly visible. The shock in their hearts grew stronger and stronger. They couldn't determine the distance. But at least it was very, very far away. A master frowned and said, it seems to be, in the direction of the falling star continent. That's right. Everyone agreed. Since the falling star continent replaced the star fortress and became the new trading platform, the Lingyuan continent had naturally sent people there, so they knew the location very well. Could it be the work of the masters of the falling star continent? It's possible. TSK. As expected of the plane where June Patriarch lived. There are really crouching tigers and hidden dragons. In the past, the falling star continent was just an ordinary place in the lower universe. Even if the high-level planes knew of its existence, they wouldn't take it seriously. But now, it was regarded as a supreme holy land because there was a sect called the Sect of All Times there and a patriarch named Jun Changshao. Whoosh! Just as everyone was talking, a heavy aura suddenly erupted in the starry sky. Before the masters of the Lingyuan continent could come to their senses, a huge battleship that seemed to be shrouded in holy light floated in the sky, blocking everyone's sight. It was mighty and shocking. This, a middle-level void-piercing realm master widened his eyes. As one of the few top masters of the Lingyuan continent, he was like a child who hadn't been weaned yet in front of such a huge battleship. City Lord Ku. At this moment, a deep and serious voice came from the battleship. It's been a long time. How have you been? That you're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.